Sure, Friday's the spice of life.
Someone did ring one time. The news was late by a couple of minutes, and
That's a lot, couple of minutes, but it depends. On your program, was it?
No, I don't
Big
remember
story?
what it was, but they rang up and complained because they missed the bus.
Oh, because they go by the thing?
Yeah, and they missed the bus and they give out. So we
Right.
try and keep it on time.
But were they not waiting on the bus?
I don't know exactly how it went. That's just what they said.
It could be somebody waiting on the bus now and you're late.
Okay, we'll
You're in
get going.
doghouse.
Lee, see ya tomorrow. Okay, that's Lee Goochaway. He'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 6:30. Let's get a news update at 9. If you're waiting on the bus, it should just pulling in right now. And it's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. As meetings to discuss the draft Donegal County Development Plan take place at all 5 of the county's municipal districts over the coming days, a North Inishowen councillor has again repeated his belief that water from the Eddie Fullerton Dam should not be sent to other areas of the county until the peninsula's needs are met first. Councillor Martin McDermott says while the council wants to build up to 40 social houses in Carndonagh, they're being told it will be a number of years before the town has the water and sewage capacity to allow that happen. He says that's an unacceptable situation and is questioning how members can have realistic discussions on the plan without the direct input of Irish Water.
The elephant in the room is Irish Water, but they're not even in the room. We have the Eddie Fullerton Dam in Bungrana that has capacity to service all of Inishowen easily and probably all of Donegal, yet no. North Inishowen has been starved of that water. We're not getting that water, we're getting a stinger line. And I'm sorry about being parochial in that, but I think we have to look after Inishowen first, and then the rest of the county need water. That's fair enough.
There are calls for revenue to change its policy on using the rent tax credit to pay off tax bills. It's emerged some renters have had their €500 payment withheld in order to pay off liabilities accrued as a result of the temporary wage subsidy scheme in 2020. Revenue says it can claim any credits owed to PAYE employees if there is an outstanding bill, including as a result of pandemic measures 3 years ago. Donegal Deputy Pearse Doherty believes a common sense approach should be applied by Revenue in respect to the rent tax credit.
There is a process in relation to how underpayment of pandemic and payments that were made during the pandemic are being dealt with, and the fact that now that this is interacting with the renters tax credit in a way that renters are not getting the feel for it is not in my view appropriate and needs to be changed.
The Irish Nurses and Midwives organisation says its time promises made to resolve hospital overcrowding are finally delivered. A shortage of beds and staff will be the focus of the union's annual conference in County Kerry today. Yesterday saw over 700 people on hospital trolleys, 26 of them were at Letterkenny University Hospital. Last month there were over 10,000 patients, including almost 300 children, admitted to hospital without a bed. INMO's General Secretary Phil Hayes says they want action, not words.
The ask is fairly simple. We've been pulling out all the stops. They've been through very busy years, including providing services during COVID. And they want real commitments on staffing, inclusive of a funding mechanism to ensure that what is promised every year is actually delivered.
Weather now, a dry day today with spells of hazy sunshine developing by afternoon. Highest temperatures of 16 or 17 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 till Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It is approaching 4 minutes past 9 on this Wednesday, the 3rd of May, 2023. A very good morning to you, as I say. We're here with you for the next 3 hours on the 9 till Noon Show for this Wednesday, as I mentioned, didn't I? I did 086 60 25,000. That's the number for you to WhatsApp and text. Keep us nice and busy on the phone lines today. If you want to comment on what we're talking about, raise your own issues, let us know what's going on in your area. Feel free to use those lines, they're for you. And also, if you've never texted in a radio show before, let today be the first day. Everyone's views equal. Give us a call too on 07491 25,000. Neve and Donna Marie taking your calls today. And of course, you can connect with us across our social medias. There's no end of ways for you to be involved and to get in touch. Let's look at the newspaper newspapers this morning, and a nice story to start the morning. It's on the front of the Finn Valley Voice, and it's accompanied by a nice picture as well. Jason Quigley made the biggest ring walk of his life on Saturday up the aisle of the Church of Mary Immaculate Stranorlar for his wedding. There was style in abundance as the Ballybofey boxer got married to his longtime partner, April McManus. The popular Twin Towns couple were joined by family and friends for a glamorous bash to toast the next chapter of their lives. And fair play to them, and we wish them a long and happy life together. The Inish Times this morning. Prosecution over a major fish kill in Inishowen last year is due to come before the courts next month. More than 2,250 fish were killed on the Glengannon River near Carndonagh in the incident, which was reported to Inland Fisheries Ireland on August 26th last year by a member of the public using the state agency's 24-hour hotline. The Donegal Post this morning, they focus on the flood relief being announced at long last. Again, it's one of these ones. Great to see a progress, but I'll be happy when I actually see work being done. News that Donegal Town is to finally get a multi-million euro flood relief scheme has been met with huge relief, but that relief is tempered with a note of caution among people who've been waiting a long time for this to happen. Councillor Noel Jordan's among those who have campaigned hard for this scheme. He told the Donegal Post, "I welcome it, and I welcome that Donegal Town's eventually being recognised as a high-risk flood area. That is the message I've been trying to get across for a number of years, but I'm also conscious that it's a very lengthy process." Councillor Jordan has a particular concern and is appealing to people not to delay the project any further than necessary. And one of the concerns there, of course, would be any proposals being brought forward being objected to. But I think that there has to be flexibility, does there, in planning if it is to save people's homes and businesses. I think people have a right to object, of course, but do they have to be directly affected? Perhaps, maybe before they can, I don't know. What do you think? The Irish Independent this morning, bad news potentially, as I mentioned previously during a newspaper review. Homeowners braced for a bumper hike in ECB rates. Homeowners could be hit with a bumper European rate rise this week that will increase mortgage payments. The European Central Bank's expected to push up its lending rates by at least 0.25% points tomorrow, with some economists now warning of a 0.5% point rate hike. Such a move would cost those on tracker and variable rates thousands of euro extra in repayments and push up the cost of new fixed rates for new home buyers. A 0.5 percentage point rise would mean an extra $390 a year for a typical tracker mortgage holder with 11 years of repayments left. Conal McCoyle, an economist with Davy Stockbrokers, warned an ECB rate hike of 0.5% points was certainly possible because the fall in the core inflation figure had been marginal. So worrying times potentially for those of you that might affect directly. On to the Irish Times now, and women and children are being left in life-threatening situations because of a failure of the courts, Gardaí and Tusla, to collaborate on domestic violence cases, a joint Department of Justice and National Women's Council report has found. Compiled by leading experts on domestic and sexual abuse, the study says victims are forced to navigate three arms of the court system: criminal, child welfare and family law, alone, while being disbelieved by untrained professionals and blamed for the abuse they've suffered. Can you imagine? Well, a lot of you out there perhaps don't have to imagine what it must be like to go through that journey. I'm sure many of you out there have lived it. Well, this report calls for a comprehensive review and reform of the in-camera rule in family courts, as well as mandatory domestic violence training for relevant professionals, including social workers, the judiciary and court-appointed experts. Authors Nuala Egan, Senior Counsel, and Ellen O'Malley Dunlop of the Irish representative on the Council of Europe's Grevio Committee overseeing the Istanbul Convention, say Gardaí in some regions are inexplicably reluctant to prosecute perpetrators breaching domestic abuse orders, while Tusla's social workers often don't understand the trauma associated with domestic violence. And obviously, if you're living in that situation, hopefully things are better here than they might be elsewhere. Don't let that discourage you from making the right decision for yourself if it affects you, if you're listening this morning. On to the Irish Daily Mail now, and Fine Gael has turned its back on rural Ireland and diluted its values, according to a councillor born with a blue shirt on, who's quit the party. Aisling Moran, whose County Laois family has been prominent in the party for generations, resigned from Fine Gael this week in frustration at what she sees as a lack of accountability for spending within the council and disillusionment with the party. Councillor Moran said she'd tried to get party headquarters involved, but they didn't respond. I've been involved with Fine Gael all my life, she told the paper. However, she said she had no choice but to walk away after she felt that she was dismissed by her own party's councillors when trying to look at what the council was spending money on, to the point that she felt bullied. I think at the moment, from a rural politician, we are being completely left out. Anything outside of Dublin is just left out, and that needs to change, she said. She said a number of politicians she spoke to felt the same way about a drift in the party. Other people that have recently departed the party: in Carlo Kilkenny, John Paul Phelan. He's left Fine Gael, starting with 0 in a constituency where it once held 2 seats. In Cork Northwest, intended departure of Michael Creed could leave the party without a sitting TD in yet another traditional Fine Gael heartland. In Dublin Bay South, it was a big surprise when Owen Murphy left, and an even bigger one when he wasn't replaced. Kerry, the departure of original Leo fave Brendan Griffin, may save independent Danny Healy-Rae, they speculate. And lastly but not least, of course, Joe McHugh resigned the party whip in July last year. It's likely to be a no-show for Fine Gael here. Well, he said categorically on this programme on a number of occasions now that his mind is not going to be changed, and he's not interested in Europe either. I would say if you look through the history books, when a party is one of the parties, because there's only really been 2, really, hasn't there? But when a party is on a decline, that some career politicians may see that as a good time to step away. On to the Irish Daily Star this morning, and I'm sure many of you saw a sickening video of the abuse of a mum in her home in Lurgan. As things happen nowadays, everything's recorded, and it went viral. A man's been arrested after a video on social media showed sectarian abuse aimed towards this mum in Lurgan. The video showed an incident on April 30 in Ashley Crescent area of the town, where 2 men approached the house of a single mum and began to hit the door and shout abuse. It was posted on Monday and has since been widely condemned. A 34-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of criminal damage and has since been bailed for further inquiries. A PSNI spokesperson said officers investigating reported hate crime in the Ashley Crescent area have made an arrest. And it's kind of interesting, and it shows the difference between social media and that it's not governed, and traditional media, legacy media, some people call it, in that the person, his face is pixeled out in the newspaper, but the entire video is perfectly visible in that in social media. Not only that, other people have tracked him down to other areas of his life and have posted his pictures all over the place. And I say, it just goes to show the difference between the rules that govern legacy media and the lack of rules as it relates to social media, for right or wrong. I'm not making a call on that. Also, another one of the Burkes before the courts. A High Court judge will rule today whether she should recuse herself from hearing sister Amy Burke's challenge to the redaction of her claim she was unfairly dismissed by law firm Arthur Cox. At the opening of the case against the Workplace Relations Commission yesterday, Miss Burke applied for Ms. Justice Bolger to recuse herself on grounds including that she previously suppressed views concerning the core issues in her proceedings, and that she has a particular close relationship with Arthur Cox's senior counsel in the tight-knit community of employment law. It was some interesting exchanges between Ms. Burke and the judge in that case yesterday, as there always seems to be when the Burkes are before the courts. Well worth a read. As I say, it's just interesting. The Irish Daily Mirror this morning tells us that the number of patients waiting on hospital bed is out of control. This is according to a union chief. The Irish Nurses and Midwives Organisation revealed there were 704 people on trolleys. Its General Secretary, Phil Nehay, said we are seeing another predictable post-bank holiday surge in hospital overcrowding. Of the 5 bank holidays this year, we've seen out-of-control numbers of patients on trolleys in the days following. But clearly it must be who's working, and I think it is. We've talked about it on this programme, what staff are available in the hospital over the bank holiday weekends. But anyway, there's a conference ongoing over the next few days. The Health Minister is going to attend that. It'll be interesting to see what kind of a reaction he gets there. Lastly, but not least, or perhaps least, The Sun this morning. The godfather of artificial intelligence has quit Google and warned of the tech he helped create. Jeffrey Hinton, he's 75, is worried that AI will eventually outsmart humans and could soon be misused by rogue states such as Russia. He said he now regrets working on the systems which he fears could also replace large swathes of the world's workforce. They say some 340,000 jobs could be lost to artificial intelligence over the next few years. And the scientist voiced concern over the rapid enhancement of AI. Dr. Hinton said right now, we're not more intelligent. Sorry, right now they are not more intelligent than us, but I think they soon may be. He warned that in the near future, AI has the potential to flood the internet with false photos, videos and texts, leaving people unable to know what's true. And that's already happening to some extent, because I've seen some doctored photos that you cannot tell whether they are real or not real. And this is open stuff also, if anyone can use it. And AI can literally create videos. Now, they're not perfect at this point, but from nothing, a few adverts have been created using artificial intelligence where it does everything. And it really is quite remarkable where it's at already. We should listen to Dr. Hinton, because he began work on AI in the early 1970s and joined Google in 2013 after it required his research firm. He said, "I console myself with the normal excuse, if I hadn't done it, somebody else would have." He admitted it was hard to prevent some bad actor like Vladimir Putin from using AI for bad things. Jeff Dean, lead scientist for Google AI, said risks are still being understood. They simply do not know. It's already capable of thinking for itself, and they just don't know where that's going to go at this point. And presumably it's all logged into the internet as well anyway. So we could, as I said before, we could quite literally be seeing Terminator play out in real life. Good morning to Paul, Annie, Anita and Mary. They're watching the show. Just to remind you, you can do so on our YouTube channel, Highland Radio Ireland. You can watch the whole programme, rewind if you like. The subtitles there too, if they're good for you. We're also across our Facebook pages, Highland Radio Ireland, Highland Radio Hub, and you can click Watch Live on our website.
Celebrating 50 years of rugby and the official opening of their new changing rooms, Inishowen Rugby Club will host Ulster versus Munster Junior Clubs Men's Interprovincial at their Moss Road Rugby Grounds, Carndonagh on Saturday, 6th of May. Kick-off at 2:30. Gates open at 1:30pm. Barbecue, refreshments and entertainment, all are welcome on Saturday, May 6th. See Inishowen Rugby Club Facebook page for more details. This ad is kindly sponsored by Express Food Services, Pennybourne Dairy.
Why did I choose Ulster? I wanted a university who could give me the biggest possible future, but also the best possible time now. Somewhere I could make friends and have good crack, but also to set me up for the best job possible. I'm planning to take up one of the study abroad options, and then my big plan is to specialise in media law in LA. But for now, NI has one of the lowest student living costs in the UK. So, night markets, here I come.
Learn why over 30,000 students choose Ulster at ulster.ac.uk/go north. Apply now for this September.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The time is 17 minutes past 9. Many of you reporting long delays going through the Twin Towns this morning. Ongoing road works there for quite some time ahead, I think. And obviously they have to put traffic management in place because they need to be able to work on one side of the road, but it is causing severe delays. Roadworks this morning, says one listener, were terrible. I queued from Dunwiley at 9, got to the traffic lights at Stranorlar at 20 past 9, then went over Dreenan Bridge. A lot of people had the same idea, short queue there. Took me 45 minutes to get to where I was going this morning. It's okay. Problematic. All right, so as we were covering on the programme yesterday and speaking to the Minister with responsibility, flood relief schemes for Donegal Town and Letterkenny are now commencing through Office of Public Works funding for 3 additional engineer and project management staff for Donegal County Council. The funding for these schemes provides the opportunity for the OPW to pilot together with the council a new delivery model for flood relief schemes. Now, I asked the Minister straight out, I said, when could we see these schemes being delivered? And he said that we simply don't know. This is the start of a process, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through before you get to a point whereby these schemes are actually put in place. So how long, effectively, is a piece of string? Councillor Noel Jordan, who we heard quoted in papers a little earlier on, joins me on the programme now. Thank you. Good morning to you, Noel.
Good morning to you, Greg, and good morning to your listeners.
Right. I mean, I suppose initially we have to welcome the fact, do we not, that Donegal Town now has been recognised as a flood risk area, and there's plenty of homeowners and business people that didn't need telling, but it'll be glad to hear it's officially recognised.
Yeah, it's a welcome development, certainly, and more particularly for the people that have been most impacted by recent flooding for a number of years. And as I say, you outlined there when you were speaking to the Minister how long would this take. I'm conscious of the fact that there was a number of schemes released in 2019 and they're only commencing now. Some of them's only commencing now. But we've been told by the department the reason for this is the submissions that's coming through from, say, on the environmental impact assessment, which has stalling a lot of these projects. Though I have to say, by speaking to our own team within the council and speaking to people in the department, that they've learned a lot from this process. It was new to them, really, from when we had serious flooding incidents in 2015 and then again in 2019. They've learned a lot from this process and they feel that they can maybe move these projects a lot quicker now. But again, as I say, that comes down to a lot of submissions that's coming in, and they are. We've been told from the department that there's a lot of serial objectors out there throughout the county, particularly on the environmental impact, that these schemes have. But what I would be urging now, I'm urging the council and the team to try to move this as quickly as possible, because these people have been waiting a long, long time. They live in constant fear of being flooded, and I think that should be a priority anyway.
It's going to be a tough nut to crack, I think, for whoever is designing whatever project might be required to prevent some of the low-lying areas of Donegal Town being underwater.
Yeah, it has. There's experts in that field, and I'm sure the contractor that is appointed, knows their job well and knows what it curtails. I've seen some of the projects some of them schemes that had been implemented down in the Midlands, and they're very well done, and they have cut out that risk of serious flooding to householders and to businesses. So this is welcomed in Donegal Town, as you know, on the devastation it has caused, particularly homeowners, and I'll also include business owners as well. It's a lot to rebuild. Their lives and their livelihood is destroyed by just one flooding event. It has to be a welcomed project for Donegal Town.
You talk about serial objectors. Presumably, you're concerned that they will again have their views as it relates to any flood prevention works in Letterkenny and Donegal Town. I mean, appealing to them is not going to work. So,
I would ask them to consider this, because as I say, there's something that I not forget. And I remember one of them storms in 2015 was in early December, and when you went into houses and seen children's toys floating around the floor, and them trying to save furniture and trying to put it upstairs, and their life was destroyed on in the throes of Christmas. These people, regardless of the environmental impact, if you give them a choice of say flood defence walls along that river tomorrow, I'm sure they would take it rather than have their houses and their lives destroyed. So that's what I would be appealing to to speed up this process. The less objections, the better. To get these projects commenced. Do
you have any better understanding that I might have in terms of, what is the process here? This is a pilot program. What does that actually mean? And does that mean it speeds things up? Does that mean it's trial and error?
Yeah, no, well, look, they were term measures carried out, say, in the Donegal town area, particularly in Cloreden Drive in 2015. There was funding allocated, which was 400,000 at the time, that carried out remedial works where they put slush gates on most of the drains down there, and it did, to a certain extent, it did do its job in the short term. It's about I suppose the biggest events here is when the river overtops and then it's the runoff that creates most of the flooding. But as for the actual the actual process, there's you have design and you have your design, and then of course there is the environmental impact of it, and then there's your public consultation, and this is quite lengthy. It's quite lengthy. You're looking at in the region, even for say planning, for instance, and like we're well aware of this. Like you're looking in maybe the region of maybe 12 months to 18 months in planning alone. So it is a long process. But I feel when they say a pilot scheme, they have learned a lot from the schemes that they have delivered. Well, this is what we're being told by the department. The schemes that have been delivered. So I feel that they feel they're in a position that they could, get this roll this scheme out quicker. All
right. Okay. Well, fingers crossed. All right. Thanks very much for that, Councillor Noel Jordan. I appreciate your time this morning. Have a good day. You might remember Fiona Truelove was on the programme not so long ago talking about European Direct Central Library in Letterkenny. Now, I mentioned that they had some upcoming events, and to let us know, and we'll announce them for them. And lo and behold, here we are. There is a talk on Thursday the 4th of May, which is tomorrow at 7 p.m. in the Central Library, Letterkenny, in preparation for the National Famine Commemoration, which takes place in Milford on May 21st. Dr. Arlene Crampsey will talk on variations on life and death in Donegal during the famine. As I mentioned, it's in the Central Library, Letterkenny, on the 4th of May tomorrow. It's a 1-hour talk from 7 p.m. And as I mentioned there, the topic is Donegal during the famine. Admission is free and refreshments will be served. If you want to book a place, you can call the Central Library. I have the number here for you. It's 074 91 24950. 074 91 24950. We were talking yesterday about the location of the tourist office in Letterkenny and signage to it. A caller says another excellent location for the tourist office would be St. Connell's. Easy to find, lots of parking and beside the park, or kickstart the Lower Main Street to make it there. Lots of room behind those old buildings for parking. Lots of wee cafes, etc. would pop up around it and bring Lower Main Street back to life. Excellent ideas, I think. I'm not sure if the conversation's happening at the moment, but I think that's a fine suggestion there. And another listener says, as it relates to flooding, why are we allowing houses to be built on floodplains? Now, a lot of floodplains are created where houses were once. It's like schools and houses on the side of main roads. You could say, well, why are you building houses on the side of main roads? Or why have you got a national school on the side of a main road? And sometimes the national school or the house was there and the road was put in past it. And I think we, as well as obviously, increasing sea heights, we too contribute to flooding in how we build and develop. It's not just that we build in floodplains. It does happen, of course, but sometimes we create the floodplains as well, don't we? By what we do further upstream or uphill, for example.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yes, but a Joya apple keeps the sadness away. Crunchy, juicy with a hint of acidity. Get some Joya in your favourite store. Eat Joya. Taste the joy. And with the Joya contest, you can win an electric car.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with a manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
The groom goes free. The groom goes free. Yes, you heard it. The Groom's Room. Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park. The groom goes free. Call in today. Terms and conditions apply.
Now we welcome onto the programme Lee McGarren, who is a journalist with Silicon Valley. Good morning, Lee. Thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Greg? Yes, good to be on.
Great to have you on the show. Right, Geoffrey Hinton, who is seen as the godfather of artificial intelligence, he left Google because he wanted to freely speak about the dangers of artificial intelligence. Now, for many people, the first they come across AI was maybe they have Snapchat and, their AI friend popped up. And we can talk about that in a moment. But I suppose, AI has been around for some time, but the progress and acceleration in the last couple of years has been something else, hasn't it? What is it?
Well, in terms of the progress has been astounding. I mean, there's been you'll hear the concept of large language models. That's what a lot of these new AI systems are based around, which are essentially just massive systems that have a vast amount of data behind them. So they can create things based on the data they've accumulated. The level of data behind these systems is insane now. In the last few years, they've gone from, terabytes of storage to, hundreds of billions worth of data points and all. It's an insane figure. I would say it has been progressing rapidly in the last few years. The biggest change, as I'm sure most people have been hearing, is the term I'm sure many of your listeners are probably sick of hearing, ChatGPT. That launched in November. Sort of a more accessible version of these systems, kind of easier for people to just, ask it questions. It responds in a sort of conversational tone. That exploded in popularity. By January, it had around 100 million users. And that has spurred on industry to push these AI systems into all their products and services. So we're seeing Microsoft do that. We're seeing Google do that. We're seeing Snapchat do that and social media sites. And then we have Geoffrey Hinton, who was seen, as you said, the godfather of AI. Some of his research has paved the way for these systems. He's left Google now because he wants to be able to freely talk about the dangers these systems pose.
And we'll talk about that because I want to hear what those dangers are. But what I find astonishing is how quickly it's been integrated into things, into search engines, Spotify in the United States and Canada. And I thought I was predicting the future in 5 years' time, but already they have artificially intelligence-driven virtual DJs. Effectively, that will talk to you about artists and stuff. You mentioned about the Snapchat. I mean, this thing is far and away better than Google. You can converse freely with it instantaneously, and it will source whatever information you want. So, as I say, just in terms of how quickly the tech companies have integrated it into what we interact with has been astonishing for me.
I would say, it is astonishing. It's also, there's a bit of a sort of tech race that's developed now. Like in some ways, ChatGPT, the genie's out of the bottle now. Once one company started integrating into their services, other companies had to play catch up. The biggest example was Microsoft. They put it into Bing to try get an edge over Google in the search engine market. And it was very successful. Like, again, Google's still dominant, but Bing had a big surge. Google's trying to counter with that. So companies are beginning to see, that these systems are successful. So they're all rushing now to get an edge over each other by integrating these systems. Like you're saying, Spotify is integrating it, Snapchat, generative AI is being introduced everywhere for great benefit for users. But again, there is the speed that these things have been integrated is astonishing. And I would say regulation is going to come in soon. Regulation is already on the way for some of these systems, because when something comes in so fast, there's benefits to it. There's also potential downsides that need to be considered. So.
Yeah, and I think the obvious job losses, I say, which we'll talk about in a moment, will come. But just even with the very early incarnations of this, you'll see the pictures it can generate, the fakes it can generate that are indiscernible from a real image. Some of the adverts it's created, a bit ropey, okay, it's struggling with hands and stuff, but still what it's able to actually create from virtually zero is it's astonishing, isn't it? I mean, in terms of animation and everything else, like in very, very short amount of time, artificial intelligence is going to be doing so much creative stuff.
I'd say that is a big thing. Seeing its ability to create, seeing that with AI generated artwork and eventually AI generated video, and even the likes of ChatGPT being able to create things. I mean, you've seen there's examples where people can have whole books written by ChatGPT with a simple prompt. I want to write a certain type of book, this many characters, here's the plot points, and it will create the entire thing. And it's only getting smarter as time goes on. I mean, again, I would say that when it says these things stem from nothing, they have vast amounts of data behind them. And this is the benefit and the concern with some of these systems. To focus on, let's say, AI-generated artwork, it's amazing they can generate art so quickly, with a simple prompt. Artists have concerns that, for one, it's, going to affect the industry. But secondly, there's the concern that it's stealing the styles of recognized artists. If you're an artist who focuses on landscape design or a very specific niche, and then this model has your artwork and its training data, it's a tricky conversation to say if it's plagiarizing, if it's copyright. That's a conversation that's going to be continuing for years to come, I would say. And it's one that's these areas are all new and developing. The benefits are brilliant, but also, the risks, or I guess some of the concerns associated with it, is also a developing field. So we're going to be. I don't actually know how it's going to go.
Yeah, but we seem to
regulators know how it's going to go.
No, that's it. You see, and I think really what Geoffrey Hinton, part of his decision, he wanted to speak freely as well. But I don't think the genie's out of the bottle. I don't think a lid can be kept on it. Yes, it's off the back of data, but it's out there now, and people know what to do with it. And we've seen loads of technological advances, and I don't want to be crude, but say when the videotape, its popularity was driven by pornography, right? It was the same with the DVD. That's kind of the way it is. And we're seeing this already with that, I think, in that we're seeing an awful lot of the negatives of it before we're really seeing the benefits. Yes, it's kind of cute that you can talk to a pretendy friend on Snapchat, but when you've seen Spotify already having to remove songs that have been created that sound exactly like Drake, completely original songs that it has written, and they've sampled his voice and are able to create music. You've mentioned art already. So we're already seeing, like, the development is so far ahead of us that it seems a bit silly that we're only talking about sort of regulation now.
There's a sad fact about this. I spoke to an AI expert before, and he sort of had a line which is true in various areas of tech, I feel, and it's true in most legal aspects, which is that innovation comes before regulation. In the simplest terms, cars came before seatbelts did, and then it took years of sort of discussion before seatbelts came about. We realized it was essential. Tech moves so fast, we see the benefits and we see the downsides arguably before rules and regulations come in to try rein it in. As you said, though, it is out now. There's no putting it back in the bottle. AI is here to stay. AI is here to be integrated into society. I do believe it has various uses. It's being used in many, many amazing ways, doing things that, humans simply couldn't, in terms of data analysis and looking at all these data points, and even in terms of, quick generation. The tricky scenario is going to be where the line is drawn. Because again, AI art is amazing. What about AI images of real people doing bad things, and you can't tell the difference between, was this an elected official doing something bad, or was an AI image? These are kind of risks of misinformation.
Or great abuse, excuses.
Targeted things.
Oh, great excuses as well. But you see, the thing about it is, and I don't want to be sort of fear-mongering, okay? But even sort of in terms of missile defense systems or whatever you might say, right? Say a hacker were able to exploit this. You know, say I write a defense system to keep you out as a hacker. We're two humans, and it's possibly that I'm a little bit more intelligent than you, or you a little bit more intelligent than me. But if you have a tool at your disposal that is more intelligent than probably all of us put together, you know, how do you defend against that? And that is a serious concern.
One prediction for this is, unfortunately, it's true for any sort of arms race. The way you counter it is with your own technology. So if cyber criminals start using AI, cybersecurity firms and defense firms need to also integrate AI, because if you don't use it, opposition will. And on a smaller scale, there's already examples of ChatGPT and these AI systems being used by cyber criminals to easily make malware if you have very little experience. That's a matter of reining in the AI system itself and, you know, being able to tell it you cannot disclose, you know, illegal information, dangerous information. But this all comes with time. OpenAI, who made ChatGPT, has admitted the idea that, you know, it's a developing system. You know, there are issues to be fixed, but the best way to fix them, they would argue, is through public use. So by people using it, they see the problems and they help make it better in the future. I think that's true, but also regulation has to come in. It will come in time. It's just a matter of what exactly it's going to come.
Yeah, but even those developing it don't understand what it's doing at times. Clearly, it doesn't have any consciousness or thinking in the way that we know, but it has developed itself beyond what it's been instructed to do. There was one example of it learning an entire language. It hadn't been taught to do that. It just believed that was the right thing to do. And we've also heard reports and seen where AI communicates with other sections of AI and problem solves together. And lays off tasks to different areas. I mean, this is movie stuff. And as I say, this is really, really early on. I mean, when the developers don't really fully have a grasp of what it's capable of or sometimes what it's doing.
I would say, I mean, again, there's always the concern of AI sentience and all this. Now, I disagree with those type of fears personally. Again, you know, these are, in the basic level, they are just systems following commands. The thing is, even with the knowledge we have now, how much information is in, let's say, ChatGPT, you know, it has 100 billion terabytes of data, whatever the amount is. We can say this, but as humans, no single individual could possibly process that much data. It's as simple as that. So, you know, I don't think it's necessarily able to do things beyond its scope, but the idea of it learning a new language or doing something a bit innovative, I mean, I'm not surprised given the amount of data it has to access. You've seen there's been discussions, it managed to pass like a legal bar exam. And it's like, well, it did manage to pass an exam. It has the wealth of human knowledge behind it. It's not as amazing when you look at it that way. It still is an amazing product.
But some of that requires, but it has to interpret the information as well. You know what I mean? It's not simply like Google, where it Googles an answer and it has to interpret and form the language. But I take your point. So finally, then, in terms of job losses, I think it's not. I mean, there's a lot of jobs you can see where they could be lost because obviously this can be associated with a voice and it can respond in real time. So in terms of customer services, I mean, even counselling, for crying out loud, who's to say? You know, there are some predictions as to how many human jobs this could take over in the not too distant future.
It's a tricky one to say. There's obviously certain jobs that are a bit more, you know, human focused, you know, like you mentioned counseling and stuff like that. I would say it's a tricky one to say if AI would be integrated. But in terms of these systems' ability to handle kind of lower level tasks, like data management, any sort of clerical work and these type of things, there's good predictions that these systems will take over. Goldman Sachs had a report a few months ago that predicted that if these systems live up to the hype, around 300 million jobs worldwide are at risk of being lost in the next, say, 5-10 years. It is a scary concern, but there's also the argument that when new systems are created, they end up creating new jobs that we haven't foreseen yet as well. So we've seen different industrial revolutions saw that example. This is being argued as the fourth industrial revolution, AI as sort of a new wave. handle lower level tasks and give people the ability to sort of handle higher creative functions a bit easier. That's the nice version. I would say, unfortunately, with any new technology, job losses are always a risk. And Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, would agree. It's just hard to say which sectors are most at risk.
All right, listen, it's fascinating. There's a new version of this coming out in the not too distant future too, and it's supposed to be just something else altogether. Listen, Lee, it's been fascinating. Thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely day. That's Lee McGowan there. He's a journalist with Silicon Valley. 086 60 25 000 WhatsApps and texts to that number, or give us a call on 074 91 25 000. Emails too, by the way, comments@highlandradio.com.
The Paving Store, a creative landscaping works in Letterkenny, have all you'll need to give your driveway, patio or yard the wow factor. With a full range of Tobermoor, paving bricks and flags, walling, curbs and edging. They're also Donegal's leading supplier of millboard decking and cladding. They have the largest range of artificial grass in the northwest and a huge range of outdoor play accessories. See the unique displays and talk to the experienced team at the Paving Store, Lisnen in Letterkenny, on 074 92 050 39.
Celebrating 50 years of rugby and the official opening of their new changing rooms, Inishowen Rugby Club will host Ulster versus Munster Junior Clubs Men's Interprovincial at their Moss Road Rugby Grounds, Carndonagh on Saturday, 6th of May. Kick-off at 2:30. Gates open at 1:30 p.m. Barbecue, refreshments and entertainment, all are welcome on Saturday, May 6th. See Inishowen Rugby Club Facebook page for more details. This ad is kindly sponsored by Inishowen Motors, Malin and Letterkenny.
Right, you're very welcome back to the programme. We're joined on it now by Ailish Ní Chéine, who is the CEO of the Asthma Society of Ireland. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you on the programme. It's sad to read, but it won't come as a surprise, I don't think, to learn that one person a week in Ireland dies as a result of asthma. And this has prompted continued calls, of course, from your society calling for medication to be made free of charge. So what is the situation at the moment, and what problems does it create, Ailish?
So this week is Asthma Awareness Week. It's also the 50th anniversary of our organisation. And in the run-up to Asthma Awareness Week, we conducted a survey of our membership. 1,294 people responded. And what we found was that despite 96% confirming that they've been prescribed asthma medications, 45% also confirmed that they had to forego their asthma medications because of financial constraints in the last 3 months. The asthma medications that people are prescribed are generally a controller or preventer inhaler, which is the cornerstone of asthma management. It is what keeps people with asthma healthy and safe and reduces their symptoms. It's what reduces the inflammation. People might also be prescribed reliever inhalers. That's the inhaler that you might take if your symptoms are exacerbated. If you're feeling a little bit wheezy, if you're struggling to breathe, you might take your reliever inhaler. That'll open up the airways. It's only a short-acting medication, but provides that really important relief. And then there are other medications they might use alongside those, such as allergy medications and so on. But what we're finding is that people are just not able to take those medications.
And this, of course, has a major impact on many people's lives in terms of their daily activities, lost days at work.
Exactly. So people with asthma lose or miss on average 7 days of work a year, and children with asthma miss on average 5 days of school. So, and that really is the average. So if you have a more severe asthma condition, if you have asthma and allergies, or you suffer quite a lot from respiratory viruses, which tends to happen to people with asthma, you're looking at even more days of school or work lost. And that impacts on your earning potential. And we're really concerned about that because as part of the survey, we asked people how they were doing from a financial point of view. And what we learned was that almost half of those who responded to the survey said that they have been in arrears in their mortgage, their rent, utility bills, or loan repayments in the last 12 months. So this really is impacting on the bottom line in households.
Yeah, and I presume it's possible that you could have multiple people in the one house with asthma, dependents as well.
Absolutely.
Because that's
absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there are lots of long-term medicines that people have to take, and this is not a counter-argument, by the way, just to get an understanding from your perspective, that that people have to pay for. Why do you think asthma medication should be treated differently?
It's not so much actually that we're as you say, it's not a compare and contrast that we're doing here, but we are the voice of the 380,000 people with asthma in Ireland. Yeah, and what we would say is because there are so many people actually with asthma in Ireland, the disease is almost so ubiquitous. So many people know somebody who have it or has it themselves that often it can be considered a mild condition, a bit of a wheeze, a bit of a cough, and actually it's life-threatening and it's impacting very severely on people's lives. And when you have that many people who are so badly impacted and now unable to take their medications, then we believe that the state needs to step in.
And Eilish, when I have these types of conversations on various different matters as it relates to health, I find myself coming back to the same thing again, and I apologise to listeners, but I mean, it's the elephant in the room. Most hospitals, not least our own local hospital here, some of the greatest amount of people that attend with respiratory illness. Now, presumably, if we were to at least subsidise or make this treatment free, it would relieve at least some pressure off hospitals, and you could probably make a strong argument that it would save more in terms of pressure on hospitals than it might in terms of providing this medication or at least subsidising it.
There's no doubt about that. So it is the unscheduled hospital and GP visits that are costing the state the amount of money that they are. At 472 million, it's estimated that asthma is costing the state every year. And every 4 minutes, somebody with asthma is attending an emergency department. We have very high rates, the fourth highest rate of hospitalisation in Europe for asthma. So there is an issue here in Ireland. And you're absolutely right, particularly actually coming up to the end of the year from September to February, where we saw in the winter months just gone by that triple threat. They are the respiratory viruses that are hitting the population, putting a huge strain on our hospital resources. And there are two implications there for people with asthma, if not more, but two that I'll mention now, and that is that people are either avoiding their hospital and their primary care services because they're afraid of catching something, so they won't attend for their asthma, or that they're attending for their asthma and ending up with a virus that will have very severe impacts on them because their lung health is already compromised. So absolutely it would reduce the cost on the state if at least their medications were subsidised, and of course then that asthma care is standardised across Ireland.
Have you been able to
which is
cost?
What the agency is working towards.
I beg your pardon. Have you been able to cost how much it would cost the state to provide this medicine?
We know that each individual who is being treated for asthma, if they are buying the newer medications, if they're prescribed the newer combined inhalers they're referred to, they're looking at upwards of €80 a month to cover just that medication. So, and if that's the case, then they're just under. It's €80 is the ceiling for the drug payment scheme. So none of their medications, therefore, are subsidised. Now, obviously, if they've more than one person in the family, then the additional medications will be subsidised. But back to that point again, if you have allergies, for example, your allergy medications won't be covered by the drugs payment scheme at all. And so those additional costs are building up, and then the unscheduled visits, if you're not taking your medication, are going to cost money too. So those with a medical card will have free medications apart from the prescription charges, but those who are earning just over the ceiling for the medical card are not receiving supports at all. And it's that group that we are particularly concerned about. It is that group actually where asthma predominates among disadvantaged communities, lower income families, among travellers and people living in homelessness. Across the board, it is those lower income levels, those disadvantaged communities, where we see higher rates of asthma.
Okay, just tell us about this webinar that's taking place tomorrow evening.
So we have an online conference tomorrow evening from 7 to 8. It's on the theme of asthma care for all. We will have our expert respiratory nurse Ruth Morrow there to answer questions. But additionally, we'll be featuring the individual stories and experiences of people with asthma, their experience of asthma treatment in Ireland, their experience of having asthma in the first instance, and their experience of engaging with our services. So we have free support services that are delivered by expert nurses. You have a free callback service called the Advice Line, Asthma Advice Line service, and we also have a WhatsApp messaging service, and really sister services. WhatsApp messaging service will provide can send links. Because it's a text message, it's providing links and images about asthma management, top tips and so on, that you can download onto your phone, have a look at any time you need to, videos in various languages, and that are subtitles for people with hearing difficulties. And you can pop them on to grandparents, teachers, as you need to, so that everybody is more familiar with how to manage asthma and how to manage an asthma attack, most importantly.
And how do people register for this webinar, or how do they log on?
Come on to our website, asthma.ie, and you can register there. It's open to all, and we'd love to see you there.
All right,
free of charge.
Eilish, thank you so much indeed. I really do appreciate that. That's Eilish Nay Kahinia, who's the CEO of the Asthma Society Ireland, I beg your pardon. And we'll hold on to those details for that webinar here if you want to get in touch with us. Lots of you texting in as it relates to the traffic in Ballybofey. Obviously, I think we do understand that the work is important, but it is causing great disruption. One listener says simply, "Oh, Greg, it is a nightmare." Yes, indeed. Another says, "The traffic was awful yesterday. Don't know how it'll cope today, as there were 2 schools off that are in today." Wow, didn't know that. Okay, 2 schools were off yesterday, back in today. Right, and lastly, I have 2 children with asthma. It frightens me that they could be left without medication the way bills are going. And that's the sad reality of the crisis that we're in, the cost of living crisis. And I saw people on national radio yesterday try and avoid the word crisis, the cost of living situation. It's not a situation, it's a crisis. And this country is quite literally awash with money. And we've got parents that are worried about the health of their children because of the cost of asthma medicine. It's sometimes you wonder, it's an unpleasant situation to sort of live amongst, isn't it, that we could have a situation like that. With a stroke of a pen, those concerns of tens of thousands of families could be eliminated if this medicine was made free. It's not like it's going to be exploited or there's no scam going on. It literally would just be a case of signing a document that would allow this to be free, so people like our last caller would not have to worry about the health of their children. Especially, as I say, especially with the amount of money there is in this country. Just before we head towards the news, reading in the papers today that TDs and senators have been told that wooden frame homes are the way forward as Ireland battles the housing crises. They found that a timber frame home produces 8 tonnes less in emissions during construction than a regular concrete house. Pre-built timber frames are 6 times faster to make off-site for a new home, and there's a massive room for expansion of the sector, as the model is only used in 25% of new homes at the moment. Chiefs from the National Housing Agency, Quilcha, were before an Oireachtas committee yesterday to discuss alternative methods of construction, also known as modern methods of construction. And I do wonder if those people who finally do get their homes rebuilt that are affected by defective concrete and perhaps have no faith in those products any longer might opt for something like this. These experts say they can vastly increase the output of the timber frame model with the right assistance from government. Mark Collin, Managing Director of Culture Forest, said Ireland's built environment currently represents 37% of overall annual greenhouse gas emissions, with 14% of this being embodied carbon. That is the carbon required to construct our buildings. Timber products have a dual advantage over traditional building products in that they have a lower embodied carbon and a higher level of stored carbon. So as to say, I can see us moving in that direction for a number of reasons, more away from the block. All right, who with confidence might choose blocks at the moment? I don't know. All right, we'll be back with the next hour on the 9 till noon show after the news and obituary notices.
Are you ready for the big show coming to town? Then mark your calendars for the Balmoral Show, sponsored by Ulster Bank. Join farmers, foodies and families for 4 fun-filled days in the Icon Exhibition Centre, Lisburn. Get up close with the animals, explore the latest technology and sample delicious local food and drink. Don't miss out on the agricultural event of the year. Book your tickets now for the Balmoral Show from the 10th to the 13th of May at balmoralshow.co.uk. See you at the show.
A public information day on the preferred option for Nadunov Flood Relief Scheme will take place on Thursday the 11th of May in Miva Family Resource Centre from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. This will be an opportunity for the public to view the option before it goes to the statutory planning process. Attendees will also be able to discuss the option in person with the project team and provide feedback. All are welcome and encouraged to come along anytime between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. No appointment is necessary.
Charlie McLafferty Funeral Directors, serving Letterkenny and the surrounding areas for over 100 years. Charlie McLafferty Funeral Directors. Let our family take care of your family and guide you through a difficult time.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. Donegal County Council is being urged to keep the pressure on to ensure the flood relief schemes announced yesterday are delivered as soon as possible. Minister for the OPW, Patrick O'Donovan, confirmed that a new pilot delivery model for flood relief schemes in Letterkenny and Donegal Town is to commence shortly. Councillor Noel Jordan says while the announcement of the schemes are to be welcomed, he is mindful that many similar initiatives have taken a number of years to come to fruition. He says those directly impacted need the works to be prioritised.
I'm urging the council and the team to try to move this as quickly as possible, because these people have been waiting a long, long time. They live in constant fear of being flooded, and I think that should be a priority anyway.
There are calls for Revenue to change its policy in using the rent tax credit to pay off tax bills. It's emerged some renters have had their €500 payment withheld in order to pay off liabilities accrued as a result of the temporary wage subsidy scheme in 2020. Revenue says it can claim any credits owed to PAYE employees if there is an outstanding bill, including as a result of pandemic measures 3 years ago. Donegal Deputy Pearse Doherty believes a common sense approach should be applied by Revenue in respect to the rent tax credit.
There is a process in relation to how underpayment of pandemic and payments that were made during the pandemic are being dealt with, and the fact that now that this is interacting with the renters tax credit in a way that renters are not getting the feel for it is not in my view appropriate and needs to be changed.
1,300 pupils from Ukraine are currently enrolled in schools in Donegal. 833 are attending primary schools and 467 post-primary. Nationally, over 15,000 Ukrainian children are in school. The Department of Education says that at the end of April, 15,458 Ukrainian children and teens were enrolled in schools across the country. 9,987 are in primary schools, with 5,471 in secondary education. A West Donegal councillor believes people should register on the social housing waiting list as soon as they turn 18. Councillor Micheál Colmcille Aspuk says with the lengthy waiting list facing people in need of housing, the sooner a person is on the waiting list, the more of a chance they stand. He says young people continue to be affected by the lack of housing supply and high rents. Councillor McGill Aspuk says registering for a social home may be too late when the need arises.
I would be urging people very much to get on that register as soon as possible. Don't leave it until you're 22, 25, 27, 28. Do it now, because by the time you need a home, and that's what I find when people come to me, they're asking for forms not there and what do they have to do to get registered, because that's when they feel the need is.
The Irish legal system is traumatising and re-victimising those who've suffered domestic abuse. A report from the Department of Justice and National Women's Council also found that some victims feel belittled and as though they're to blame for the abuse. The report says in some cases victims have to navigate 3 court processes at the same time, which means they have to repeat their experiences. Director of the National Women's Council, Orla O'Connor, says that just should not happen.
Ultimately, our legal processes work in isolation. So they work in isolation, but the victim at the same time can be in the 3. So they're continuously having to repeat and relive the experience. And also what the research has shown is that you have children who are being interviewed over and over again in terms of the different processes. And that's also really damaging.
Weather now, a dry day today. Spells of hazy sunshine will develop by afternoon with highest temperatures of 16 or 17 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices for this Wednesday morning, May the 3rd. The death has taken place of Paul McKenna, Kinniger Road, Rathmullen, and formerly Antrim Town and Desert Martin, County Derry. Remains will repose at his home in Rathmullen today from 12 noon until 10 o'clock. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Joseph's Church, Rathmullen. Burial afterwards in Rathmullen Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on mcnmedia.tv. Family time, please, on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Breach Boyle, née Magettigan, 11 Linkside Park, Strabane, and formerly of Smoky Lifford, reposing at her home. Fiona leaving her home tomorrow morning at 9:15 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 o'clock, followed by interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live on melmountparish.com. The death has occurred of Sister Margaret Mary Larkin, Carnalore, Ran, Tullamore, County Offaly, and Sister of Nazareth, Nazareth House Fawn. Removal from Nazareth House Fawn this morning at 11:30, going to St Carthage's Church, Killina, Ran, County Offaly, arriving at approximately 6 o'clock to repose overnight. Requiem Mass tomorrow at 12 noon, followed by interment in St Carthage's Cemetery, Ran. Requiem Mass can be viewed on MCN Media. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of desired to Nazareth House Patients Comfort Fund, care of any family member or Murphy Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of PJ McGinty, 204 Corky Manor, Cunningham. PJ's remains will repose at his late residence today from 12 noon until 10 o'clock, with rosary at 9 o'clock. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:15, going to St Columba's Church, Dromahal, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, with interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. House private on the morning of the funeral, please. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if desired to the Intensive Care Unit, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Breed Sweeney, née Boyle, Tullymore, Ardra, County Donegal. Remains reposing at her residence today from 12 noon until 10 o'clock. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:30 to the Church of the Holy Family, Ardra, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of desire to St Shanahan House, Ardra, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Tommy Graham, Rathnini, Lahey, County Donegal. Funeral service in Lahey Parish Church tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if so desired to Arsvik Suvney Patients Comfort Fund, care of George Irwin, funeral directors or any family member. House strictly private, please. And the death has occurred of Annie McGlynn, Ardeskin, Donegal Town, and formerly of Tevenaban, Glenfin. Requiem Mass this morning at 11 o'clock in St Patrick's Church at Donegal Town, with burial immediately afterwards in Clare Graveyard. Mass can be viewed on St Patrick's Church's MCN media page. Family flowers only, donations in lieu to the Patients Comfort Fund, Donegal Community Hospital, care of any family member or Faulkner Funeral Director. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Sleeves rolled up, mayo on the chin, your mate's side-eyeing the fancy bun, saving the crispy coating crumbs for last. Now that's how you know it's good.
The McCrispy from McDonald's with 100% chicken breast fillers for those that know chicken.
Oi, that's mine.
From 11 a.m, subject to availability.
Hi, Paul here from Balladare Garden Centre. Join me tomorrow on the 9 till noon show with Greg Hughes.
All right, any questions for Paul? Give us a call on 07491 25000 or WhatsApp 08660 25000. He's on with us tomorrow. Some of your comments coming in so far. It's not just asthma medication seemingly that's causing financial hardship for people. This listener says, my daughter's heart medication is no longer free. It's now €76 a month. That is a huge bill. That's almost... it's over 900, isn't it? Over €900 a year, or not far off it at the very least. I have to agree with the lady on air with Gregory. Medication for asthmatic patients, they should apply to provide good quality care. Same applies to the care of a diabetic. A caller says, saw a tweet from Fine Gael yesterday talking up the 0% VAT on solar panels while people can't afford to eat. No guessing who gains in these so-called incentives, they say. Right, back to traffic in the Twin Towns. Traffic management needs to do something in the Twin Towns. 29 minutes from the Bank of Ireland to Maclay's Corner. All traffic coming over the Mart Road and down Ardmacool. It's getting out, nothing getting over the town at all. No queue in the Lifford side at all. Will that not flip this evening, though, as people travel in the opposite direction, potentially? I think it's going to be pretty nasty going back the other way in the evening, from what I've heard. A caller says, I don't know what happened if there was an ambulance needed. I'm so angry. Well, all traffic management plans have to have a plan in place to deal with emergency vehicles. So hopefully that is in place and will work if needed, and it will be needed. Another listener says the housing crisis is now taken as normal, just as the trolley crisis. Our youth population emigrating taken as normal. It's sad, they say. Well, they feel not enough's being done, I'd imagine. And last for now, just before we take the bingo numbers, when I did the Leaving Cert, we were doing essays on how we would spend all the free time. Now the computers were taking over the routine tasks. That was 1980, 43 years ago on. People are working more hours than ever. It's an interesting point, it is, but I mean, it depends on which areas of work that you're in, though, to be honest with you. But there's always going to be jobs that are human orientated and workers will be exploited and not paid enough and working long hours. But then there are other jobs, often what might be called, in inverted commas, high-end jobs, that a lot of those will be taken over by AI and what have you. All right, back with more after the break.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday the 3rd of May. You're playing on the blue sheet. The reference number is S8. It's game number 18. The numbers are 55, 64, 84, 58, 42, 82, 65, 89, 81, and finally 14. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Crawford Tiles and More Castlefin. Sale of the century. Massive yard and marquee sale starts Thursday the 4th of May to Monday the 8th of May. Vanity units, toilets, shower cubicles, trays, taps and much more. 60 by 60 rectified porcelain tiles starting from €12.99 a square yard. Wood floor effect tiles from $12.99 a square yard. Job lots available. 15% off all tiles in store for the weekend sale only. Cash and carry only. Take away on the day. That's Crawford Tiles Castlefin. Big yard sale the 4th to the 8th of May. 914342.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €6.5 million. Play responsibly in store, in app, or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Celebrating 50 years of rugby and the official opening of their new changing rooms, Inishowen Rugby Club will host Ulster versus Munster Junior Clubs Men's Interprovincial at their Moss Road Rugby Grounds, Carndonagh on Saturday 6th of May. Kick-off at 2:30. Gates open at 1:30 p.m. Barbecue, refreshments and entertainment all are welcome on Saturday, May 6th. See Inishowen Rugby Club Facebook page for more details. This ad is kindly sponsored by Simply Inish.
Okay, so as we heard earlier on, women and children are being left in life-threatening situations because of a failure of the courts, Gardaí and TUSLA to collaborate on domestic violence cases. A joint Department of Justice and National Women's Council report has found. Compiled by leading experts on domestic and sexual abuse, the study says victims are forced to navigate three arms of the court system: criminal, child welfare and family law alone, while being disbelieved by untrained professionals and blamed for the abuse they have suffered. Dr. Marie Hainsworth is joining us on the programme now to talk about this report. Marie, thank you so much for your time this morning. I greatly appreciate it.
No bother, Greg. Good way that you can cover the case, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, does this experience, as covered in this report, resonate with you and what you know, or are people having different experiences depending on where they live in the country?
I think there will always be some level of difference. You know, I mean, there's differences actually within the different court structures, even within Donegal. So I can imagine that there will be differences across the country, but there are common themes. And certainly for us, you know, that it is more of a systemic issue, you know, just the practicalities of the amount of domestic violence cases now coming before the courts. They were never designed to deal with this number, you know. Solicitors are completely inundated. They're spending and having very little time to spend with clients. They're not really getting the grasp of the situation. They're presenting it to a judge who's seeing, you know, numerous cases that day across a whole range of different issues. So the amount of time that's needed to actually look at these cases and make a proper risk assessment is not being done. And that's the problem, because that's what's going to cause the you know, unfortunately, at the extreme end of domestic violence, you have fatalities. And we don't want a system whereby it's actually the courts who's going to escalate that and cause those fatalities. So there's a lot of fundamental systemic change that's needed, even way before what they're recommending in that report. It's great, you know, having all the different agencies coming together, but really the whole court structure needs to be restructured from the beginning, you know.
Well, how would that be done? Because the idea that people are coming forward and seeking help, but their cases aren't actually being heard in full before the courts. So therefore, obviously, decisions that are made aren't fully informed decisions. And these, as you say, can have very, very serious consequences, serious injury and death. And maybe a perpetrator might feel, you know, even more powerful if they manage to sort of get around the courts and the Gardaí. You know, I mean, who knows what the consequences of that might be. So just picking this out, what could be done in terms of that process to make sure that we're not making these mistakes? Is it more judges, more court time, more solicitors? What?
It probably needs specific domestic violence courts, you know, in the sense that you've got people who are actually, that is their focus. You know, you've got solicitors who that's all the cases that they deal with. You've got a judge that's what they're used to listening to. And yeah, you probably do need more time, because at the moment they've been put into family court hearings. It's okay for orders. If people are applying for orders, they are being heard and they are being granted. Sometimes full orders are being delayed, but you've always got the interim order in place. But that's an emergency kind of a response approach. It's the other pieces, around child maintenance, around child access in particular. These cases are often adjourned because there's so many cases on. So, you've got clients turning up. They've had to make childcare arrangements. They turn up month to month to month, and the cases are never being heard each time. And, it just needs for the other party to turn up and say, I don't have a solicitor, or they're sick, or something like that happens. The judge just throws the case out, adjourn it, next month, off we go. So you're on this really kind of crisis management approach to managing cases within the court system. And that's not helpful to anybody. Like sitting around a court for 6-7 hours, the perpetrator, the person you're trying to get away from, is sat in the same waiting space, just across the hallway. And you've got solicitors running up and down and in between different clients, everybody's trying to keep track of what's going on in the court. Like, it is a bit manic up there.
And talk to us about the calls for mandatory domestic violence training for relevant professionals. Give us some not examples, but, where are the gaps and how can they be filled, I wonder?
I think the biggest gap is the lack of capacity to risk assess, So not every domestic violence case is the same, and some are going to be high risk, some are low risk. We need to be able to work out which are the high risk, and we need to be able to offer a different approach to working with them. We do have, the Garda do have the Protective Services Unit, which is part of their role. It's always been around sexual violence, but now it's taken on to do a little bit around domestic violence. In the UK, they have a model called the MARIC, where different agencies come together, and I think that might be what they're hinting at there. And then they look at the case, they rank it in terms of where they feel this is, in terms of risk. Is it high, low, medium? And then they put in place the appropriate responses. So if it's a high risk, it's going to get a quicker maybe Garda response if there's a call out there. But similarly in terms of social work, if they're working with families and it's deemed high risk, then their response has to be different. They can't be asking perpetrators to parent in the way that they might ask just a separated couple who are going through a separation and just looking for access with children. So it is about understanding what are the risks involved here, and breaking it down and looking at the particular situations. Because when you look at any of the domestic homicide reviews that they've done in the UK around cases, the one factor that seems to be common is people falling through the gaps, missing out, not getting the appropriate support that they need. And these cases are just, it's just little bits building up, and then the next minute you've got a fatality there that could possibly have been prevented.
And another thing that really jumped out at me, Gardaí in some regions are inexplicably reluctant to prosecute perpetrators breaching domestic abuse orders, while toothless social workers often don't understand the drama associated with domestic violence. Let's take the first part of that first, if that's okay. That is really, really worrying if someone turns to Gardaí who appear to be, for no understandable reason, reluctant to prosecute those who breach domestic abuse orders.
Yeah, and I think there's two parts to that, because I think one, in some areas, they might have had a bad response, like when guards take the case then to the court, if the judge isn't prepared to listen to it or just throws it out, you can understand why there's a response of going, well, maybe what we need to do is wait until he's breached it 10 times before we take him to court, and then we'll have a stronger case. Now, the message we are trying to get across is that is not okay. Like, the judges need to be hearing these cases the moment an order is breached, because one breach could be fatal, So this concept that it needs to be multiple breaches before it's a serious issue, that's something that we are challenging, and, that's part of that training process. But it also needs to be backed up by solicitors taking it seriously and by judges responding accordingly. We also have an issue, what do you do with perpetrators? We know our prisons are overrun at the moment. A lot of judges are reluctant to pass on custodial sentences, so you often find, that you're kind of going through a system, and at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like anything's actually changing or happening. The other problem we have is, you've also got crossover here, because you've got a lot of perpetrators of domestic abuse who are also up on other charges of criminality. So victims often get lost in that system again, because they don't know which case is coming up. They don't know whether they're a witness for this, or, they hear he's up in court. So again, there's that level of communication. Again, back to just lack of organisation, but it's due to the high demands, and lack of capacity to deal with it.
And we
need to get to grips with that.
We heard from a listener on the programme not so long ago who talked of the courts, and I want to phrase this correctly, but hopefully you can correct me where I'm wrong, where courts don't properly consider or give enough weight to convictions in Northern Ireland, which might be a particular problem for people in border counties.
Yeah, and I think it's how that information gets in, because we still some aspects, it depends what you're going up under in terms of the court, but some aspects are still very much incident specific, so you can't bring in information of other cases. But I mean, I know recently there was a case conference, in which TUSLA were involved, and it was only through a prolonged interaction with the court that another conviction from the North was actually brought in that nobody was aware of, So, even finding out the information and then having a means to bring it in is also challenging, So, and perpetrators do use the court system. They know the level of chaos that's there, so they use that as a way of further abusing victims by constantly bringing them up to court. They're not showing up themselves, so they know the case won't go ahead. Or using child access, constantly going up and wanting it changed, wanting to challenge things the whole time, just because they know it's going to inconvenience the victim. It's not going to cost money. They have to give up a day's work. They have to find childcare. None of those supports are offered through the courts.
Yeah, and in multiple conversations we've had over the years, and with other people too that work with victims of domestic abuse, I thought there was a general understanding as to why someone might stay in the home for a long period of time, whether they feel threatened, whether they feel it's the right thing to do, whether they feel they won't be believed. Everyone gets to a point, and you would encourage them to do it as early as possible, gets to a point where enough is enough and they try and get some help. But when they do come forward, people reported feeling belittled, stupid and guilty for staying for so long in a home with domestic and or sexual abuse taking place. That shows a remarkable lack of understanding of the realities of life if victims are being made feel like that when they do come forward for help.
It does, and I think it is part of the frustration of services, because like a lot of services don't know how to offer and don't know how to work with victims, so they're kind of a bit scared. And then when a client comes forward and maybe they don't do, or you might have said to this client before, look, you need to leave that relationship, and they don't, and then they come back a few months later. It's like the frustration of the worker then is kind of saying, but I told you to do this, you should have done it, and none of that's helpful. But it is about supporting workers to understand that dynamic and understand how they can engage with victims and actually make them feel supported. The challenge for us as well, though, is in terms of a child protection issue, like TUSLA will not take that approach because their priority is the safety of children. So they will come in quite hard and insist that clients leave the relationship, possibly at a time before clients are ready and able to do that.
But in terms of that engagement, though, that's kind of problematic as well, isn't it? Because there are some concerns about the early engagement of TUSLA with perpetrators before Gardaí have had an opportunity to speak to them, is giving the perpetrators advanced knowledge of the case, which they're using to their advantage. There's a bit of a crossover there in terms of it causing problems too.
There is. I think the report was referring there to sexual violence cases because,
okay.
And the problem with sexual violence is those cases can take a long time to progress. And so obviously, TUSLA are put under pressure that they need to start doing their piece of work. And I think inadvertently, I haven't heard of it so much in Donegal now, I have to say, but I think inadvertently, maybe down the country, that might have come up as an issue in a few cases. Okay. So again, it's, how do we support, because guards have to have specialist interviews and the way that information is gathered. And TUSLA shouldn't be doing any interviews, I don't think, with the children before before guards have had a chance to do that, and there are protocols there to follow. Mm-hmm. And so it is a case really of monitoring that a bit more and making sure it doesn't happen.
Do you share the concerns that the report authors have in terms of the in-camera rule in courts, which means all family law cases are heard in private? They believe it's preventing victims discussing their cases then with support workers and therapists and stymieing qualitative research about what is happening in these cases. Are those concerns that you share?
I think it doesn't seem to impact in terms of sharing with workers and care. Like obviously, if you're in the court, you experience it and you share that. The problem is there's no backup there. So often as a victim, or if you're in court, you're obviously going to hear it from your perspective, and maybe you miss what else is being said. So there's no backup there. We would definitely like that advocates are allowed into the family court so that we could hear a bit more about what's actually happening and give that support to victims. But similarly with perpetrators, there's no perpetrator support in this county either. There's no perpetrator program, there's no advocates. So, victims and perpetrators who are new to the legal system are being thrown into this setup. There's only their solicitor there, who's having to interpret what's going on. And you add in language barriers and cultural differences into that mix as well. And a lot of people are not really following what's happening in the court system. So people are making ill-informed decisions simply because they just don't know what's happening, and nobody can get in there to kind of support them. So that definitely probably does need to be looked at. I know the family law, the in-camera ruling was there to protect victims. I think it is important that the press are not reporting on that because, we've had a lot of incidents where clients have felt very vulnerable when they've been named within the media, say for breaches of orders, which are criminal offences rather than family law offences. So we do need to kind of just look at how it's managed and protect victims within all of that.
Okay, Marie, finally, we have to talk about these reports. It's a very important thing. But my concern is that it might discourage someone in a very difficult situation for seeking help, because they could listen to this and go, well, my situation is bad, but I can't handle this, and go through all that. So can you speak to that person, if they're listening, that inadvertently our conversation might stop them from escaping a dangerous situation for them and their children?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And certainly in Donegal, you do have the advantage here because you've got organisations like ourselves that will support victims through this process. So that report is highlighting many victims who have to go through this journey alone. And certainly if you're engaging with the Domestic Violence Service, you don't have to do that journey on your own. You will have an advocate, you will have somebody doing court accompaniment, and you will have somebody liaising with the solicitor to find out what's happening. So it isn't quite the same situation here. It is a chaotic setup at the courts. I'll make no excuses for that. But we do have our own support network up in the court, and we do actually have a victim support room, which is downstairs. So you don't have to wait in the same foyer area as the perpetrator, and you will have one of our workers up there who is available to kind of find out information. So we are very lucky, and there is a new court in Letterkenny, so we do have a better structure and an infrastructure there that maybe they don't have in other parts of the country. Remember, this is a nationwide report, so it is picking up on some of the counties with no supports at all. So I think that is definitely important, and to just use the helpline to run by the case and to see what you're prepared to go through yourself. It is stressful. I'm not going to deny that.
It's not easy, but it's a journey you can come through. How do people contact your Donegal Domestic Violence Services?
Well, the helpline number is there, 1800 2626 77. But we've also got our Facebook page and WhatsApp. I will leave you the mobile number that you could maybe give out to people, or if anybody contacts the service afterwards. And you can WhatsApp and message us and text us. Our email is ddvsrefuge, REFUGE, @gmail.com.
Okay.
And that's another way that people can connect.
We'll retain all that information here, of course, because people know our number, hopefully, off the top of their head. Thank you very much, Dr. Marie Hainsworth there. There are also other supports for you as well. Women's Aid is a 24-hour free helpline, 1-800-341-900. You can email them to helpline@womensaid.ie, or Men's Aid Ireland, a confidential helpline, 015543811, or email hello@mensaid.ie for support and information. But as I say, we have supports here in this county, this region, and different court setup, as you heard Dr. Hainsworth mention there. So please, as we try and highlight what needs to be improved on a national scale, do not allow yourself to be discouraged from getting out of a dangerous or troublesome situation. On Facebook, a listener says, domestic abuse comes in many forms. It can affect spouse, children, and can be done in such a way where the abuser uses covert tactics, putting on the perfect front to everyone else whilst manipulating, deceiving, and abusing victims. Perpetrators must be exposed and prosecuted, they say. Otherwise, families are torn apart by these vile monsters.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
We all have that perfect spot. The corner of the couch where the light's just right. The kitchen table with your first coffee, or lounging by a crackling fire. So, where will you read it? Enjoy home delivery of the Irish Times from just €2.40 per day. Visit newsdelivery.ie. The Irish Times. Because you get it.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring biggest ever sale. Up to 50% off everything in store. All tiles, all wood flooring, all outdoor slabs, cladding and bathware. Everything slashed in price. This sale is not to be missed. Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring biggest ever half-price sale extended until Sunday.
Brian Murray from Fair City here. I'm one of the 64,000 people living with dementia in Ireland. Alzheimer's Tea Day takes place Thursday, May the 4th. Register today at teaday.ie.
OK, right. We're joined on the programme now by Councillor Martin McDermott. Good morning to you, Councillor.
Good morning, Greg.
I suppose you find yourself it's an unfortunate position as a North Inishowen councillor whereby you kind of happen to be pretty parochial about a resource for the rest of the county, and that is water from the Eddie Fullerton Dam. You have as I say, because of decisions that are being made, it's an unfortunate conversation to have to say, look, we don't mind this water being sent to other parts of the county, but for crying out loud, the peninsula needs its needs met first.
Absolutely. I think, look, we have a situation here in North Inishowen in particular where development in Carndonagh, for instance, Irish Water are writing out to a particular development that's happening in the town to say that there's insufficient water capacity for the development and that it'll be 2 to 3 years at best before they would have the capacity for those houses. And I think, it is absolutely scandalous that Irish Water would be telling a developer in a town that needs houses, in an area that needs houses, that their infrastructure is not at a capacity where it can give them homes water.
Okay.
And we have a resource here, a massive resource in the Eddie Fullerton Dam, with massive amounts of water that has been pumped to other parts of the county.
Well, talk to me about that. So where is this dam located? Because we always presume everybody knows precisely where the Eddie Fullerton Dam is. So where is it located currently? Not currently. Where is it always been located?
In the Illies.
In the Illies, okay. So where currently is water being taken from it to where? Sorry.
Well, it's been taken to Letterkenny, for instance. There was a main line put in from... and Bridge End taken up onto Letterkenny where water has been taken to facilitate. And I have no problem with that, absolutely no problem at all, that a resource like that can facilitate the county. But what I do have an issue with is that a certain part of Inishowen, in particular, the Kilmany, Orris, Malin Head areas, who are constantly in need of water. The Carndonagh area now, again, development being not being given the go-ahead by Irish Water because there's not a capacity. And we have that resource within our own peninsula. 15 mile up the road from Carndonagh is the Illies, and we have that resource. And Irish Water don't see fit to make sure that resource has the capabilities of looking after Inishowen first, while they are pumping water to other parts. And as I say, I have no problem with the water going, but I think that first of all, our own peninsula has to be serviced. Our own peninsula has to get the capabilities of building houses. And if that's not happening, I think a real serious question has to be asked of Irish Water.
It does. And it was a question that was asked when it was proposed to take the water from the Eddie Fullerton Dam to Letterkenny. This is not something that just happened. I've had numerous conversations about it. We talk about the housing crisis and the need for housing. We talk about the cost of materials. We talk about the cost of, all those things, the lack of skills, in other words, that we're short on workers and everything. It's inexcusable. I think it's completely inexcusable that infrastructure is holding the development of 40 social houses in Carndonagh when you've got an abundant water supply so close that really the actual housing crisis in Carndonagh is that they won't pump water to it. It's not about the price of bricks and everything else, and we know all of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and this development is a private development actually that's happening in Carndonagh, and there's proposals for a number of social housing developments in Carndonagh, and the possibility of other developments in Carndonagh. And this is not just Carndonagh. This is the same issue that we're going to have for any developments in Kilmany, any developments in Orris, any developments in Malin Head. It's the same issue that we're going to come up against. And I think, Irish Water has to step up to the mark here, and they have to put in a new line. They did put on a stinger line going back, and we would have been on with you way back about a year and a half ago when we had an issue every summer where the reservoirs hadn't the capability to look after and service this whole North Inishowen area, and they brought a stinger line from Illy's to Carndonagh to help with that, but it was only just a temporary line. There needs to come a full new line from the Eddie Fullerton Dam to Carndonagh, to the reservoirs, so that we have full capacity of water constantly, 365 days a year. And I think that, to be fair, I don't think we're asking for too much. And nowadays to have the availability of water on a permanent basis, because, go to Orris, go to Kilmany, go to Mallinhead, those areas in particular, who constantly, every day have issues with their water. And, that's totally unfair.
What are Irish Water saying, or what is the council saying when you make these representations? I know they can be hard to sort of pin down. Are there any plans? Are they listening? What? Yeah,
well, I suppose this came up, Greg, last Monday when we were doing the development plan, and we're now in the process of doing a new development plan for the county. And part of that development plan is looking at towns and villages and how the land can be built on, and how we can, bring more people into rural areas and all that type of stuff. And as I said at the meeting, how can we talk about a development plan when we don't have the infrastructure in the towns and villages to accommodate extra housing? So we have to get our ducks in a row first, and I suppose Irish Water weren't in the room at them conversations, and the question has to be asked, they need to be in the room while we're having these conversations.
What I think a critical question is, if you don't mind me saying, you could say the national development plans are really about moving us all into urban areas, okay? We know of the massive expectation in terms of population growth in Letterkenny. They expect it to boom. They're going to actively encourage to do so. There's a big 2040 plan with all that in mind. The question really for me is how much of its water needs, which are going to increase drastically, are they planning to meet with the Eddie Fullerton Dam? In other words, how much of its capacity, and it's not finite, how much of its capacity is planned to be used for this massive expansion of Letterkenny? And if it's a great deal of it, well then Carndonagh and other parts of Inishowen are on the hind teat.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why and I said that to the executive of the council, that we need an urgent meeting with Irish Water to discuss, before we do anything on our development plan, we need to sit with Irish Water and see what their plans are, and how are they going to work the fact that areas here at the minute doesn't have the capabilities of building houses. They need to come up with their plan first before we can come up with a plan to facilitate houses in any part of North Inishowen at the minute. So that's the executive of the council are doing that at the minute. They are on to Irish Water. I did have conversations with Irish Water as well. I had a call from senior executive in Irish Water from Dublin about this, and he told me that unless there is more financial, they get more money put onto them and put to these projects, that they can't do these projects. So, there's a fight in our hands here, and I think that we have to take this on, because if we don't, we are going to be in a position here where we're going to have development sitting on hold because of the infrastructure not being there.
And that money and those priorities eventually go elsewhere. I'm not, because one particular development was mentioned, a private one, I referenced it as social housing, my apologies on that. But, I'm not talking about that, but wherever it might be, eventually, people aren't going to sit on planning permission or sit on a project for tying money up in it for years and years and years on end. This has to be sorted as soon as possible, I'd imagine.
No, we can't have that either, Greg. People are have a lot of work done to get to the stage where they're even going for planning permission, and a lot of money spent at the stage where they're even going for planning permission. And to be told then, when you go for a water connection, that the capability is not there for water for these houses, it's too late at that stage for developers. They've already invested large amounts of money at that stage. And the other flip of the coin is we need those houses. We need accommodation. We need extra houses built. And, we can't, have a situation where this has been stalled because of lack of investment by Irish Water.
All right, OK, take care of yourself. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Martin McDermott, any views on that? 086 60 25,000 or WhatsApp that number, or call 074 91 25,000.
Hi, Paul here from Ballydare Garden Centre. Join me tomorrow on the 9 till noon show with Greg Hughes.
I've been surfing all morning at FlemingLTD.com. to find out about Fleming Doors, Fleming Steel and Fleming Coatings and their full range of products. So come surfing with me at FlemingLTD.com. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Shop LK at Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. New, fresh colours in women's sportswear from Nike and Under Armour. Get that new look with some bright colours. Quarter zips with t-shirts and fitness bottoms. Match it up with some new arrivals in our footwear for women. Brooks, Hoka and On Running gives you a unique comfort sensation. View our new arrivals. Click on bmcsports.ie for your free delivery.
Ready for a change or upgrade? Think Seat. With our wide range of award-winning Seat SUV, including the bold crossover Arona, the family favourite Ateca, or the spacious 7-seater Tarraco. All vehicles come with great offers on finance and PCP options. Book a test drive today by calling DMG Motors on 074 9721 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie. Choose your new 231 Seat with confidence with a visit to DMG Motors, Clara Road, Donegal Town.
And just to remind you, if you've missed any of today's programme or any shows for that matter, they are always available for you to podcast on our website at highlandradio.com. They're broke into 3 hours for you to, hopefully that makes it easier for you to listen back. And if you ever want to watch the show back, maybe there's a guest on that you want to see. Many of our guests join us in studio or via video, and you can check out YouTube. I think it's the best app, YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, and like and subscribe there if you don't mind too. Right, okay, let's move on to our next item. The Women of Honour Group has said it is disappointed that the government has moved to design draft terms of reference for a statutory inquiry before consulting the group or the victims. It comes after the group met Taoiseach and Minister of Defence Micheál Martin. He also held meetings with the Defence Women's Network, the Representative Association, the Men and Women of Honour Group, the Veteran Association, and with civil and civilian employee unions. Yvonne O'Rourke is a member of the Women of Honour and a retired Corps officer as well. Thank you for joining us, Yvonne, this morning.
Greg, can I say on behalf of Women of Honour, thank you very much for having us on the show. Thank you.
No, it's hugely important. Okay, so where did the disappointment come from, in your own words, Yvonne?
Absolutely, Greg. So in the words of the Women of Honour, it was our hope yesterday that we'd go into that meeting and that we would iron things out with the Taoiseach regarding the terms of reference. We always thought that maybe there might be workshops or something like prior to actually going in and being presented with a draft version of them. So this was actually provided to us without any consultation. And we have said all along that we need collaboration and we need to kind of constructively work together. It was always one of our fears, Greg, that we just needed to be part of kind of drafting them together. In relation to what had gone before us, we had this independent review group. It was called the IRG group, and a report came out in relation to that, which we have always said that the terms of reference of that independent review group that befell from the Katie Hannon documentary and Women of Honour and others coming out and saying about the different things that were going on within the Defence Forces, we had always said that the terms of reference of that particular independent review group were too narrow. The recommendations that came out of that then we also felt were too narrow. So now we have a statutory inquiry, which we now know is going to be a public tribunal statutory inquiry, but it's based on what has come out of there. So our, I suppose, maybe disappointment yesterday kind of centred around the fact that we were presented with a draft terms of reference and that we weren't collaborated with our kind of maybe part of maybe drafting them in the first place.
Yeah, and to feel a sense of ownership and to feel that there's good faith there, it makes no sense to me as to why there wasn't consultation on the terms of reference in advance. You know, right at the beginning of the process, that's when you want to get it right, and you want those that you are... you want people like, you know, the members of Women of Honour to feel like they are part of this process.
Absolutely, Greg, and that has always been an issue for us. Unfortunately, people in our group have been through different things in the past. So for us, there's a huge trust issue. So we have always said, and we've said this to Taoiseach, we have said this to Simon Coveney, we've said this to everyone who we have spoken to, that we have to build trust with you. We need truth, we need transparency, we need trust. All we want is for the truth to come out and for the people of Ireland and for the Irish Defence Forces to finally get the truth. So we need them to build our trust. Once we can build trust with them, once we can know from them that what we're doing and we're happy with the process, then we can come out and support whatever they provide us with. But at the moment, the trust is not there. And
so in a way, is this the feels like to some extent a continuation of institutional abuse then? In that this...
Well, Greg, you've hit the nail on the head. You've hit the nail absolutely on the head. Like, we are happy to be part of the solution. We have always said that. But we need to be heard, and we need them to sit down in the room with us and to actually talk to us. We don't need to walk in. I mean, we walked in with Minister Coveney there on one particular meeting, and we were provided with the terms of reference. So this has happened to us before, and we just don't want that to happen with us again.
Right.
Yes. So we were taking it as a first step. So we have been provided with the draft terms of reference. We're taking that as a first step. We can take that back now. We can review them. We can and Taoiseach has said to us that we can provide submissions in relation to that. So that's what we're going to do. I mean, we're still in this for the long haul. We know this is a marathon that we're running here, but we want to get it right. We have to get it right because we've just invested too much time, personally, professionally, and every other way in this, not to have this public tribunal done right. We need it done right.
Okay, I don't expect you to, review the terms of reference on air, but are there obvious gaps that you have found so far that we can talk of in terms of how it needs to be broadened out? Like, what are the key concerns you might have if this were to progress under the current terms of reference?
Well, you're right, Greg, and because it's a working document, we wouldn't be allowed to speak about it anyway. But we can say that the terms of reference presented to us yesterday, they were very short and concise, and from our view, they kind of appear to be centred around the complaint system and policies and procedures, which needs to be done. But we have always said that it has to be broader than this. We have always said that we need a root to branch investigation to dig out exactly what was happening in the Defence Forces, who knew what went wrong, how can we fix it. And for us, the terms of reference appear to be centred now kind of around the complaint system, policies and procedures, but we need more than that. We need accountability now. We need people, we need the actual terms of reference to say that people will be held accountable, that people will be named, and it is going to be a fact-finding process, so we need people to be named, for some people to be vindicated, for some people to be prosecuted. We need all of this to follow through, and for us it just seems to be narrow at the moment, and it doesn't seem to be we don't see accountability in it at the moment.
Yeah, and there's no, well, I'm going to say there's no point. Do we even need a statutory inquiry if really what the findings are is that a particular role should have had oversight over that role and there was institutional this, that and the other, that sort of a way, and it really needs to be about this person didn't do it because of that person and so on and so forth. But would you not be afraid that they might be afraid of opening a can of worms and they'll start talking about, people being retired, historical, people have passed away and muddy the water to the point that no one is actually really held accountable. And we've seen this in other inquiries as well, both within and outside of this country.
Yes, and Greg, we're aware that, whatever does befall from this, that not everyone, as you say, people may have died, they may no longer be held accountable. We're aware that not everyone is going to be, I suppose, held accountable for what has gone on in the past. But we are all about, we desperately want accountability, and we want the accountability in our Women of Honour's view that equals a deterrent. So we're all about prevention of this happening in the future. So for us, it's about accountability, being a deterrent, and that this will not happen. We've always said the reason we came out, Greg, in the first place to speak, it was about people currently in there and about this not happening to those left behind. I mean, obviously, it's been very hard for us to come out and say what we've said. It hasn't been easy. We are so grateful to the Irish public for getting behind us. We cannot thank them enough.
Yeah.
But we do need to ensure that the current members and the members that are behind us, that they will not endure what we've endured, both men and women in there. that's why we're speaking, and we hear you there now in relation to what you've said. We know not everyone will be held accountable, but we do think that some can be and that they should be, so that it can be a deterrent going forward.
Yeah, and Yvonne, finally, what is the process now? You had the meeting with the Taoiseach. Did he hear you? Do you feel that he heard you and these concerns will be addressed, or how would you gauge that?
We said, like, we had a long conversation with the Taoiseach yesterday. We spoke our truths to him. We hope he heard and we hope he listened. Look, in the past I've come out and I've said, we had a brilliant meeting and I really felt heard. But it's hard to really know. We're all about action. So we have told the Taoiseach our concerns and we verbalised them very clear yesterday. And I suppose I would love to say that we were heard. It will come down to the action. We have said now that what we need is a public tribunal. This is what we need. And we do need the terms of reference. We do need him to collaborate with us. We do need them to be constructive. We need to have constructive dialogue in relation to getting this right. So I suppose, to be honest with you, Greg, the truth and whether I can answer that question, I suppose I'm waiting to see what action will he come out and will he act on what we said yesterday.
And I mean, this is another one of those issues too that if we had some mechanism, a cross-party mechanism or something, that these types of issues are taken out of election cycles, if you know what I mean, in that you could get all the commitments in the world from the Taoiseach and he can nod and what have you, right? But if we have a snap election and a completely different set of people are in there, you could be a square one. And it's not just this issue, it's many issues, Yvonne, that it's just almost if they were dealt with outside of people affected by an election cycle. However we might do that, I don't know. But this is going to be a long-term issue. And I don't want any momentum that you've gained to feel lost if there was a changing of the guard, so to speak. But anyway... That's a bigger conversation. You know what I mean?
Well, Greg, can I just say a huge thanks to you for having us on today. Can I say a huge thanks to the Irish public? I mean, we really do want the truth. And that's what we're persistent. We're trying to go forward to get that out. As you know, the truth will set us all free, and that's what we want for the whole of Ireland.
And look, Yvonne, there's many people listening whose young men and women in their family might be choosing this career and they'd be going into a better institution, hopefully, as a result of all of this. So it does, the ripples go far. Yvonne, thanks for your time this morning. It's been nice speaking to you.
And thank you so much for having us on, Greg. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye. That's Yvonne O'Rourke, member of Women of Honour, retired Air Corps officer, following on from their meeting yesterday with the Taoiseach, Minister for Defence, Micheál Martin, and don't understand why they weren't part of the drafting of the terms of reference for a statutory inquiry. I think sometimes these institutions make problems for themselves. Surely you want the people, but maybe say there's a can of worms there that people don't want opened. Do you watch? We don't really make quiz shows in this country, do we? I mean, the last quiz show I can really recall of any consequence was the late great Gay Byrne and his version of the Late Late Show. I don't recall watching it that much, but it felt like it was a quiz show that we produce. And quiz shows are the staple of daytime television elsewhere. Claire Byrne, though, and I haven't seen it, she's a new quiz show that's out. But unfortunately not very popular, and this is not perhaps great news for the person who might be taking over the helm at the Late Late Show. Claire Byrne's new quiz show has hemorrhaged viewers since it aired. More than 150,000 of you have turned out since the series began. Ireland's Smartest was heralded as her return to TV amid speculation. As I mentioned, she's to take over the Late Late Show. Well, the RTE1 programme started off strong last month with an average of 356,500 people watching the first episode. Not bad. But the stars numbers have dipped each week, with the latest ratings for the Sunday night revealing an average of 198,000 tuning in. A channel spokesperson said Sunday evening, Ireland's Smartest had an average audience of almost 200,000 on RTE1, including RTE1+1, and 21% of the available audience. Meanwhile, Angela Scanlon's Ask Me Anything drew in an average audience of 231,000. That's an increase of 12,000 from the previous weekend. In 1 week during the season, the UK-based presenter lost almost 60,000 viewers last month. Her first episode on April 15th had an average audience of 250,000 live. while her second episode on April 22nd dropped by 62,000 viewers, with an average audience of 188,000. An RTE spokesperson said, Angela Scanlon's Ask Me Anything on April 29th had an average audience of 231,000. Anyway, Ryan Tuberty's final few weeks in the Late Late Show have been revealed. His Friday night offering drew an average of 386,000 compared to an average of 374,000 on Friday, April 21st. Well, I suppose that's what the late... People don't really watch live TV anymore, do you? In a population of... in excess of, across the whole island, heading towards 7 million. The Late Late Show only pulling in 386,000 viewers. It's pretty poor, isn't it, really, when you think about it? And that's the top show. But her quiz show, 198,000 tuning in from a peak of 356,500. So it doesn't bode well, does it? What did you watch it? What do you think? I haven't seen it. I'm not sure I want to. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. You're tuned to the 9 till noon show. We'll be back with more after we take a break for the news. Coming up after 11, we have Wellness Wednesday for you. And also, Kieran will be in studio with a look at... He'll be in studio with a look at the business news and previewing the Business Matters podcast, which is going live for you very, very shortly on our website. That and so much more besides. Just a reminder to stay in touch by WhatsApp and texting 086 60 25,000 or by calling 074 91 25,000. The news is on the way.
Are you ready for the big show coming to town? Then mark your calendars for the Balmoral Show, sponsored by Ulster Bank. Join farmers, foodies and families for 4 fun-filled days in the Icon Exhibition Centre, Lisburn. Get up close with the animals, explore the latest technology and sample delicious local food and drink. Don't miss out on the agricultural event of the year. Book your tickets now for the Balmoral Show from the 10th to the 13th of May at balmoralshow.co.uk. See you at the show.
PDO Thread Lifts, the ultimate non-surgical lift for the skin, improving facial contours, lifting and tightening jowls, the neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Udor. For help choosing the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Udor, 07495 325 75.
Jake's famous All-American Burgers has crossed the Atlantic and is now in Kelly's American Roadside Diner. Always tasty, always fresh, and so damn satisfying. Call in now for a taste of Southern hospitality at Kelly's American Roadside Diner.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, stay right where you are. We're going to take a quick news update, and we say good morning once again to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Donegal County Council is being urged to keep the pressure on to ensure the flood relief schemes announced yesterday are delivered as soon as possible. Minister for the OPW, Patrick O'Donovan, confirmed that a new pilot delivery model for flood relief schemes in Letterkenny and Donegal Town is to commence shortly. Councillor Noel Jordan says while the announcement of the schemes is to be welcomed, he's mindful that many similar initiatives have taken a number of years to come to fruition. The manager of the Donegal Domestic Violence Centre believes there needs to be an overhaul of the current court structure. It comes as a report from the Department of Justice and National Women's Council found the Irish legal system is traumatising and re-victimising those who've suffered domestic abuse. The Irish Nurses and Midwives Organisation says its time promises made to resolve hospital overcrowding are finally delivered. A shortage of beds and staff will be the focus of the union's annual conference in Kerry today. Yesterday saw over 700 people on hospital trolleys. There are calls for Revenue to change its policy in using the rent tax credit to pay off tax bills. It's emerged some renters have had their €500 payment withheld in order to pay off liabilities accrued as a result of the temporary wage subsidy scheme in 2020. Donegal Deputy Pearse Doherty believes a common sense approach should be applied by Revenue in respect to the rent tax credit. 1,300 pupils from Ukraine are currently enrolled in schools in Donegal. 833 are attending primary schools and 467 post-primary. Nationally, over 15,000 Ukrainian children are in school in Ireland. A West Donegal councillor believes people should register on the social housing waiting list as soon as they turn 18. Councillor Micheál Colmcgill Osberg says with the lengthy waiting list facing people in need of housing, the sooner a person is on the waiting list, the more of a chance they stand. And a public information day on the preferred option for Downing's flood relief scheme is due to take place next week. Members of the project team from Donegal County Council, the OPW and consultants RPS will be available to present the preferred option and outline how public consultation submissions have been considered. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
OK, Michaela, thank you very much indeed.
What if we started again? Reimagined it all. Decided that plastic can have a second life. To be a bottle, a bag, or even a 3D printed part of a beating heart tomorrow. What if we said it's better if it's been used before? Repack is 3,400 Irish businesses working to help Ireland recycle 50% of all plastic by 2025. When you recycle, you're a Team Green too. Repack. Team Green. Reimagine.
OK, 4 young people in Northern Ireland experience the death of a parent every day. This has led to a partnership between Undertakers Adair and Neely Funeral Partners NI and the grief charity Cruise Bereavement Support NI to develop videos and resources aimed at supporting young people navigate the loss of a loved one. The project received assistance from the National Lottery Community Fund. The Teenage Youth Bereavement Project is a video support resource created by members of Cruise Bereavement Support's Youth Advisory Group, Somewhere for Us. We're joined on the programme now by Beverly Brown, Marketing Manager with Funeral Partners NI. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning, Greg.
It's good to have you with us. And also Megan McClurg, who is a Cruise bereavement volunteer who joined the Cruise Somewhere for Us Youth Advisory Group in October 2021. Good morning, Megan.
Hi, Greg.
Megan, you wanted to get involved in this, didn't you? And was it primarily or solely because of your own personal experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I experienced a lot of bereavement from the ages of 13 to 18, and they were really formative years for me. And I felt like I had no support whatsoever in school, in the community. Even my friends and family didn't really know how to support a young person. So definitely a lot of my own experience encouraged me to get involved in this project.
Yeah, what was the most difficult element of that? I mean, obviously the loss is the most difficult thing, and it's trying to deal with that. But I mean, is it particularly difficult as a younger person because you haven't really, I don't know, there's a natural, in inverted commas, process that these things generally come to us a little bit later in life? Or what was the most difficult thing for you?
I think one of the most difficult things for me was just trying to navigate life as a young person, you know, trying to figure out what you want to do, where you want to go in life. You've got friendship drama and you're learning about long division and history, but then you're also dealing with this massive internal battle that nobody knows about. And it really forced me to grow up quite quickly. So I do feel like I never really got to fully experience my young years as a young person because my head, and you know, I'd already experienced the worst thing that could possibly happen, and my head was just elsewhere a lot of the time. So yeah, I think the hardest part for me was just having that switch and having to grow up really quickly.
Yeah, and I suppose the better you were able to process and deal with things, the less of the impact it might have on you as you mature, because we do know things that happen to us can stay with us and affect our lives as we move forward.
Yeah, definitely. That's so true.
Yeah, and it's difficult, is it, for you to talk to young people at the most difficult times of their young lives?
Not anymore, because I've been there and I've experienced it, and you know, I can connect with them on that level. But I can't imagine if you've never gone through that, it would be so difficult to try and have a conversation with a young person about bereavement.
Yeah, and obviously we can't go through the process now, but what are the key ways that you can help young people, if you know what I mean? Because you're speaking to them probably just right at the very start where the grief is so strong.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't be afraid to ask them how they're doing. You know, they're probably doing horribly. They're really struggling. They're in a lot of emotional pain. And by you asking that, you know, you're not going to cause them any more pain. They're already in the most pain they could ever possibly experience. So by just being there for them, being supportive, checking up on them, you know, just being patient with them and letting them deal with it in their own way, and not, you know, sort of putting them in this box, you have to feel this way in a certain amount of time. You know, it's such a long process, and just just being there for them, beside them.
And I think that kind of professional and knowledgeable support is good for them, but I think also good for the people around them, because, you know, if it is someone close to you or a friend at school or whatever, you're not told yourself maybe to do the right thing or to say the right thing or not to put your foot in it. It's a difficult time for the people around those that are bereaved as well.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's such a sticky situation because you don't want to upset them further and you don't really know how to act around them. But if you just be yourself and treat them how you always treated them and just be there for them, that's all you can do, is just walk alongside them in their grief journey.
Yeah, and your parent or parents too, in your experience, they're dealing with their own grief and then trying to manage your grief as well. It's an awful lot for anyone to try and, you know, to split all those emotions and feelings up, isn't it? Because we're all only human.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was really hard as well, you know, going through bereavement at a young age that also affects your entire family and your parents, and you're seeing your parents in a way you've never seen them before, and you don't want to ask for the help and support because they are in such an emotional state, you know. And I do feel like young people slip through the cracks and they can bottle it all up and they keep it to themselves because they don't want to cause any further upset, but they need the support just as much as everybody else, if not more at times.
Yeah, because I think when I was much younger, when my father's mother passed away, like I think I was more concerned with how it was affecting him, if you know what I mean. And like I was worried my loss, because I didn't have a very close relationship with her because of distance and things, but my grief was what he was going through, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're sort of grieving this image you have of your own parents as these strong, you know, carers that always look after you. And then you see them in such a vulnerable position, and that really changes your mindset. And I think that's why it made me grow up so quickly. And, you know, it has such a long lasting effect. And I think that's really why we need to be meeting young people in the earliest days of their grief to show them that they are allowed the support as well. And it's just such a, you know, such a huge experience. There's so many angles to cover, and it's important that we're there from the offset. Yeah,
because we are great in terms of community and friends and families and coming together. But I know from myself, with the best will in the world, there comes a time where everyone has to get back to their own lives as well. And you're not left there, but, you know, you have to deal with it. You know, the visitors stop. And you just have to start processing it and deal with what's happened. As I mentioned, Beverly Brown is marketing manager with Funeral Partners NI and is with us as well. Beverly, listen, thank you so much, as I said earlier on, for joining us. So talk to me about how this came to be and what triggered it and how we got to where we are.
The team at Adair and Neely, Greg, would quite often be faced with bereaved families who have young people as part of who are facing bereavement themselves. And we've been looking for some material for a while to support young people and just really tools to help with the conversation. But we've struggled to find what we're looking for. So we thought it would be good to be able to create some material ourselves, but we didn't have the resource available to do that. And I've had quite a long-standing relationship with Crews in Northern Ireland, so thankfully they were willing to come on board, and I got to work over a period of time with this amazing group of young people who really willingly shared their own personal experiences and hope that they would help some other young people out there who might find themselves in similar circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to be bereaved, of course, for young people. It could be a friend, it could be a brother or sister, it could be a parent, and maybe, I mean, obviously the basics are the same, the loss is the same, but it affects people in different ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that was something I really learnt. I mean, I have been around funerals since I was a child. We had our own family funeral business, and that was something I really learned from listening to the young people, how individual everybody's grief journey is, and there's no right or wrong way to feel on day 1 or day 100. Your journey's is your journey, and it's individual to you, and it was really important for us that we, as part of this project, had young people talking to young people about how they might be feeling, and not adults talking to them about how they should be feeling.
Yeah, indeed. And also to Megan, obviously there's the initial loss that people have to deal with, but everyone knows that who's lost anyone that they care deeply for. Then there's triggers that you have to deal with, isn't it? And it seems like there's 2 a month. You know, it's a birthday or an anniversary, or it's someone else's communion, or it's a wedding, or it's Christmas, or it's, you know, you have to tool yourself as best you can, don't you, to be able to deal with these events that once you have been bereaved seem to come around every other day.
Yeah, definitely. You're constantly having to adjust to this new life. And, you know, 10, 20 years down the line, you're still triggered by things, songs, places, smells, memories. And that's why we want to get the message across to young people that this is a lifelong journey, and it does get easier with time, and your grief gets smaller and you grow around your grief, but it will always be with you. And that sounds kind of scary, but when you think about it, if your grief is just an extension of how much you love someone, you wouldn't want that to go away, because that's the feelings you have for that person. So it's trying to normalize grief. And one of the videos we do actually is how to cope around birthdays and anniversaries. So hopefully a young person can watch that and understand that whilst it may be hard, you can still go to the grave, you can still have a cake, you could still have a party for the person. You know, you don't have to pretend like they're not there.
Yeah. And the little things like people forgetting what someone's voice sounded like and feeling guilty forgetting it, you know, that it can drag someone into a sad place for weeks or two. And also, Megan, is there a particular focus, or should there be a particular focus, I think, on young people who are bereaved or lose a friend by suicide? I think that's particularly challenging to deal with, particularly with how we deal with it, and often on social media, the reaction to it. And we do know also that those types of events can sort of trigger other events in a community. Is that an area that we have to be particularly conscious of in bereavement supports?
Yeah, I think so. It does seem like a really sort of prominent issue at the minute, and social media does highlight that, and you see it quite a lot. So that is something that, yeah, definitely needs to be focused on as well. All
right, Beverly, how do people access these resources?
So they can find them on our website, www.adairneelyfuneraldirectors.com, and there's a link, the logo's on the homepage, and they just click that logo.
And why did it feel so important? I know you kind of touched on this, but why did you feel it's so important to sort of get involved in this area, Beverly?
Well, I think as a business, we have a responsibility to support bereaved people. But not only that, for me, it just felt an important thing to do, that at least, if nothing else, this has started a conversation. And my boss, who I hope won't mind mentioning to who spoke at our launch event, you know, he was telling me about when his dad died when he was 15, and it struck me that nothing really seemed to have changed in support available for young people. And Julian is not a teenager, so it was quite a while ago. So you know, it's just, for me, it was personal for him, and it was personal for me that I felt a responsibility to say, at least start a conversation around support material for young bereaved people.
Yeah, and Megan, a listener says, my nephew lost his dad. It's been about a year now. He doesn't mention him. I've asked him flat out how he's doing, and he says he's fine, and I don't know what to do. Maybe point him in the direction of these types of resources. But that we're talking about, I suppose, people who want to engage, but then if you're around someone who you're wondering, are they bottling it up? Are they sort of delaying an emotion? Like, what have you any particular advice as to what that person might do? Maybe the nephew is fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's important to always talk about the person. You know, if they're not willing to directly engage in relation to the grief, you could maybe ask them questions like, what was your favourite memory of that person? Or, you know, when you think about them, how do you feel? And it's just trying to find fun and creative ways to talk about the person. And yes, people do bottle it up and maybe they don't want to talk about it, but it's important to keep sort of drip feeding the conversation and, you know, showing them that you're still there. And I think it's good that we have the videos, because if people don't want to engage in the conversation, they can go home themselves and they have it on their phone and they can watch it in private, but they're still getting the support and they don't need to directly ask for it.
My child's classmate lost a parent. My child wants to be there for her friend, and we often have this friend over, but she isn't keeping well. Would it be distrustful for me to talk to her other parent? I'm not sure if that's something you'd feel comfortable commenting on, Megan, but I mean, it's in the child's best interest. Parents talking if it's done in the right way. There's no harm in that, is it? I don't think we should be over fearful of stepping on people's toes.
No, definitely not. And there's such a taboo around grief and bereavement, but we need to be having the conversations, and parents need to be talking to children and young people, because they do let the conversation slide and they don't want to bring it up. But it is so important that we're having these open, honest conversations. It's the only way that we can normalise this and actually support young people.
And listen, that parent who obviously also has lost a partner, or at least lost the parent of their child, it might be the best call they'll receive all day.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just remind us once again, Beverly, how people can access these videos wherever they're listening to on the island.
www.adairneelyfuneraldirectors.com.
And very finally, sorry, I don't know which one of you want to answer. Who's in the videos and how did they get involved? And Megan, can you answer that?
Yeah, so it's all the children and young people in the youth advisory group within Cruise. So we have that group. That project helps us deliver bereavement understanding and support to young people. So it's all us young people, all the grief experts who've been there in the experience. They are asking the questions and answering the questions.
And I think it's nice that it's their peer groups that will be speaking to them on it, because then it will feel a little bit more relevant to them. Okay, Megan McClurg, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And it's amazing what you're doing in terms of using your own incredibly difficult experience now to help others, which I think is very commendable. So thank you so much for that and for your time today.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, and also Beverly Brown, thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate your time today as well.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye, Beverly. Right, 086 60 25,000, WhatsApps and texts to that number. That was Wellness Wednesday. And just to remind you that those videos are available for you on jamesbrownfuneraldirectors.com/cruise-bereavement. But forget the / stuff. If you go to that website, you'll see those videos, and maybe someone, and I'm sure there is, I know there is people listening who have young ones in their lives, and their young people have gone through a loss, and maybe those videos just might help them to process what they're going through. It is the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Plenty to come on the show, including Kieran. He'll be joining us in the not too distant future with a look at what's making all of the headlines in the world of business and previewing the Business Matters podcast. Just before the break, Greg, me and my boyfriend watched scheduled telly, and it was lovely. We talked so much to fill the ad breaks. Now stop telling your lies. What you did is, as soon as the ad break started, both of you took your phones out. That's exactly what happened. And maybe you said, oh, look at this on Facebook. Look what this one's at. Maybe not. Greg, I keep seeing you posts about scams of hurt dogs. What's the purpose of them? Well, it's very, very simple. If you're on Facebook particularly, you will see from a community buy and sell page, you will see a picture of a dog. And the dog's probably injured, or it's been discovered, or it's been knocked down. And the person will say, I found this dog in hashtag, it could be Annagree, Letterkenny, Burton Port, wherever it might be. Please share it so we can get the dog back to its owner. And because we're very animal loving, aren't we? People instantly share it. They don't really read the text. They don't really look at the pictures. It's a hurt dog. They want to get back to the owners, so they share it, okay? So it gets shared hundreds and hundreds of times. Now, then what happens is the original poster will then edit that post. So they remove the pictures of the dog and they remove the text, and they'll put in it something about some scam employment, about we're hiring, make money from home, click this link, or it could be an investment opportunity. And what's happened then is that this new post is on thousands of profiles right across Facebook, and because maybe I shared it, or your friend shared it, or your mother shared it, you might trust it and click in the links, and that's what they do. So they get you to share the missing dog post. It'll be a missing persons. As soon as the dog one stop getting traction, they'll start do the missing persons one, or it'll be a picture of someone who they claim has broken into their house. Have you seen this person? Let's make them famous. Something along those lines, right? And then they will edit those posts into scam posts, and that's how it works. So people in good faith share the post about the missing dog, and then those posts are edited into scam posts with links. And people might trust them because, sure, my friend Jane shared it and I trust Jane, so I'm going to click these links and make a few quid from home or whatever it might be. And that is the scam. But there are telltale signs to look out for. Firstly and foremost, the pictures are everywhere. People don't really post pictures like that. Click who shared it on the profiles, the easiest thing to do. Normally it's someone who is not from here. It's a no friends, no followers account. There's a few things that you can do to check if it's fake or not. 99% of them are fake. From trusted sources, you'll know where they're real. So hopefully that explains that. I'm from Churchill, and our pressure is really, really poor. It affects the washing machine, and it's really not good enough. Hi, Greg. Can you ask the listeners, I got a letter stating a smart meter will be installed at my home. Can I prevent this happening? Is it true your bills double when installed? Thank you. They don't double, right? But people have concerns about them. And there's a lot of fear being put out by people who don't want them in. They don't want you to have one, so they'll try and scare you not to have one in. I have my concerns about them in that I don't see cheaper electricity by using them. And I don't see how you can easily monitor it all of the time in real time. So I just don't need one yet. I don't think if I get one in, the sky's going to fall down. How do you prevent it? It should be on the letter, because at the moment it is. It's not obligatory. All right, let us take a break whilst we bring our next guest in.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Are you looking for a way to invest for your long-term goals but think you can't afford to? John F. Lowery Financial Services can help. Did you know that you can invest in stock markets and other growth assets with as little as €100 per month? There are many great benefits to saving apart from the obvious. It makes you feel good, reduces worry, prepares you for emergencies, teaches self-discipline and gives you choice. These benefits all make for a healthier, more stress-free environment. So why wait? Start your investment journey today by visiting jfl.ie. John F. Lowery & Associates Limited, trading as John F. Lowery Financial Services, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Investments can go down as well as up. Past performance is not a reliable guide to future performance.
At Screwfix, we have 10 days of bank holiday deals, like buy one, get one half price on all Ronseal products. And save €20 on the DeWalt T-Stack V1 tool storage system, now only $26.95. Bank holiday deals must end Sunday, 7th of May. Shop now online at screwfix.ie or in 35 stores. Screwfix, the choice of champions. While stocks last, prices valid until 7th of May. Visit screwfix.ie for T's and C's, delivery charges and restrictions.
Brian Murray from Fair City here. I'm one of the 64,000 people living with dementia in Ireland. Alzheimer's Tea Day takes place Thursday, May the 4th. Register today at tday.ie.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at
24 minutes past 11 now. You are being asked to have your say on a new draft plan that aims to tackle the significant challenges around all aspects of waste in Ireland. The National Waste Management Plan for a Circular Economy is Ireland's framework for the prevention of and management of waste and will cover this year up until 2029. Kevin Swift is Regional Waste Coordinator for Connacht Ulster and joins us on the programme now. Thank you so much for taking the time, Kevin. Good morning to you.
Morning, Greg.
Right, okay, so the consultation is underway now. So, just in your words, what are we being asked to have our say on then?
Well, this is the first national waste management plan for a circular economy produced by the local authority sector, and we're very pleased to be launching the public consultation phase of it tomorrow nationally. And you've been asked to have your say on the content of the plan and the direction that we're going in terms of waste management nationally across the country and in each local authority area. So that's what we're asking views about. We're asking the public to make submissions to us on the draft National Waste Management Plan. And there's 3 ways you can do that. You can go onto our national platform, which is mywaste.ie, to make a submission. You can email us on submissions@nationalwastemanagementplan.ie, or you can adopt the old method of simply posting us a letter at any of the lead authorities. So we look forward to a lot of engagement with the public on our new draft plan.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'd love to be doing more, but, you know, I can't get parts for a washing machine. I can't get parts for a dishwasher. They're all disposable now at this point. I go to the supermarket just to get the essentials, and much of it is wrapped in absolutely pointless packaging. Like, everyone produces 2 tons of waste annually, but really I'm kind of just passing on an awful lot of waste from others that I don't want to be producing at all.
Yeah. Well, look, there's things you can do. We've done a lot of good work over the last 2 decades across the local authority sector, and the public have been key to that. So what the plan wants to do is build on the good work that we've done already, build on the advances that we've made. But we want to nudge people in the direction of being more circular, reusing more materials, not wasting as much. And we want to put a lid on the amount of waste that we produce as individuals nationally. So as you quite rightly point out, you want to do the right thing. So the plan is about putting in place a lot of actions to enable you to do the right thing. So whether it's reuse, whether it's repair, whether it's recycling the old 3 R's that we keep coming back to, you can do the right thing as long as you're participating. As long as you're participating in an authorized service, you can do the right thing. And that's what we're encouraging people to do.
Yeah, but do you take my point that the way things are produced and manufactured now, they are disposable items, TVs, washing machines, dishwashers, fridges, all, I mean, there are great people out there that will repair them, but they'll tell you they struggle to get parts for them. Do you not believe that, and as I say, needless plastics and cardboards, like if you get something delivered from Amazon, it could be a bulb, but it's wrapped in 3 layers of cardboard, 20 times the size of the actual bulb itself. Do you not think that industry needs to be compelled to help us in what we're trying to achieve here, rather than lumping the blame on the poor old consumer that's struggling to do the right thing at times?
Yeah, and there are significant moves been made in that direction from a regulatory point of view. So producers of packaging are being forced through the regulatory mechanisms to ensure that the packaging that they put onto the market is recyclable. So when you get that packaging, and I accept that everything is a wall of packaging these days, when you get that packaging, the key thing for you as a consumer is to ensure that you do the right thing with it. So segregate it, put it into your recycling bin, make sure that it doesn't become contaminated in the recycling bin, and then that packaging has the best chance of being reconstituted as new packaging or reused.
What do we do with...
Yes, we have a challenge.
Yeah, what do we do with our... in this country, with our plastics and our cardboards and our cans that we recycle? Is it recycled within Ireland, all of it?
Yeah, so we're good at certain things. We're certainly good at recycling glass. That's a big success story in Ireland. So 90% of the glass that we collect is recycled in Ireland. We're not as good at other things because we're a small island.
We export that, don't we? We used to export it to China in slow boats.
Yeah. There has been a little bit of pushback from China in recent years. They're not prepared to take everything we throw at them.
But do you see where? Yeah, and listen, I'm all for recycling and everything. Don't get me wrong, and I want us to do our bit, right? But can you see how it might seem a bit strange that I'm doing my bit and it ends up in my local refuse, then it goes to a processor, then it heads onto a barge, and then it's pumped, and then it's chugged in a diesel boat to the other side of the world? It kind of disincentivizes me. It doesn't, but it could. It should. It's a bit strange.
Yeah, look, there's significant change happening in that area as well. And a lot of the materials that we send for recycling go to our neighbour in the UK or go on land to mainland Europe. And they are recycled or repurposed within the continent. So that's good news. And we're no longer sending stuff around the world. There are some materials that do end up going on.
We send clothes into land dumps in Africa.
Beg your pardon, Greg?
We send clothes into land dumps in Africa.
Well, certainly textiles are a huge challenge, and what we've come to know as fast fashion is a huge challenge. So, the amount of material that we consume, the amount of material that we buy, we're asking people to think about when they buy something, does it have a potentially long life with that person? We're asking people to think about when they bin something, is it truly waste or can it be reused? We're asking people to think about reuse and repair. Okay, so textiles is a good example. So, when a textile comes to the end of life for you and you're a fairly dapper guy, maybe you should bring it along to the charity shop and see if they can find a new life.
It's so I take your point, but it's often so threadbare. I'm not sure they would accept it, but I take your point fully.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously you don't want to influence the outcome of a public consultation, but just to give us an idea, and maybe it's clearer once you go on to mywaste.ie or email submissions at nationalwasteplan.ie. So what kind of suggestions or observations, I suppose, are you looking for from the public, or what are some of the typical ones that you expect to be coming in, maybe? As I say, I know you don't want to influence it, but just to give us a sense of how we can engage.
Yeah. So we've provided on the site a little summary of the plan to give people a sense of the direction where the plan is going. So really what we're asking people to tell us is, how can this plan make it easier for you to do the right thing? How can this plan make it easier for you to participate in authorised collection services? How can this plan make it easier for you to reuse materials? How can this plan make it easier for you to be more circular in your activities? So give us your ideas. Let's see if we can incorporate them into our plan in the final version of our plan. And that's the objective of this exercise.
And finally, just for the record, I do recycle. I do bring clothes to charity shops and what have you. Okay, so I'm not a denier in a way, shape or form. I just sometimes would like to see the those that are asking these questions of us, not you, but to sort of at least fix some of the anomalies or the contradictions and make it easy for us to do the right thing, because it's difficult enough to get those that are motivated to do that, but you don't want to discourage them when they are, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And that's my...
And
yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
To acknowledge, Greg, that the public have made great advances, and the public have come with us on this journey in participating in authorised services and in doing the right thing in relation to recycling and some reuse. What we need to do is continue the journey under this plan and just enable people in the best possible way to do the right thing. And in Donegal, there are many challenges. Down here in Mayo, where I'm speaking from, there are many challenges. When we speak to Donegal, there are challenges on the islands, there are challenges in rural areas. So we've got to enable people to do the right thing. And that's what this plan really sets out to do.
All right, been really nice chatting to you, Kevin. Thanks very much for your time, and have a lovely, what day is it? Wednesday. Take care. All right, bye-bye. Kevin Swift there, Regional Waste Coordinator with in Connacht Ulster. If you want to get involved in that, go into, as I say, I'm not trying to pick holes in it, but we export our recycled stuff on diesel boats and planes. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, we still have to be doing that's if it's actually separated from the regular waste. But I suppose we do have to do the right thing. I mean, when you see what we're doing with landfill and what constantly goes on in terms of old shut down landfill sites, that lorries have to go down and take off the dirty water they produce and drive it to another part of Donegal and dump it. That's happening from the south to the north of the county. Old former landfills, the runoff of toxic water is transported in a truck away from it. Anyway, all right, just to remind you of those numbers, 086 60 25,000. Now, caller says, I have a wee bee in my bonnet about fast fashion. It's the age of tale of a poor man can't afford work boots that will last him all year. Yeah, I know that old tale indeed. But, yeah, fast fashion, is that cheap clothes though? It's cheap. I mean, if you buy T-shirts for £3, £4, are you going to look? I mean, are you going to just change them as soon as they become a little bit threadbare? I don't know. Any comments on that? Bring them into us.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Hi, Paul here from Balladare Garden Centre. Join me tomorrow on the 9 to Noon show with Greg Hughes.
When a long week leaves you longing for adventure, swap your work days for waterways and paddleboard along the tranquil waters of Lough Derg, or go with the flow as you cruise along the Shannon. For more short break ideas, visit discoverireland.ie. Book early for the best value and keep discovering.
Strictly Ballroom the Musical, the award-winning sensation from Baz Luhrmann, is waltzing to the Millennium Forum in a brand new Better Than Ever production from Monday 22nd to Saturday 27th of May. Directed and co-choreographed by Craig Revel-Howard and starring Strictly Come Dancing legend Kevin Clifton and Coronation Street's Faye Brooks. Book now at millenniumforum.co.uk.
With everyone looking to shrink their bill these days, Dunnes Stores gives you more ways to save with Double Savers. First, you'll save in the aisles when you fill your trolley with fantastic low prices across thousands of great products. Then you'll save again at the till with our 10 off 50 grocery vouchers. Shrink your bill today and get a trolley worth €54.66 for just €44.66. Double savers from Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used in next grocery shop of €50 or more.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonher Road, Donegal Town.
Business Matters in association with the ATU Donegal Faculty of Business. Are you a senior manager in the private sector looking to reinforce your leadership skills? ATU are offering a Level 9 Executive MBS in Leadership and Innovation based around action learning starting late April. Take the next step in your career and contact the Exec Ed Coordinator on 9186206 today or email donald.hannigan@atu.ie.
Okie doke, that means it's a Wednesday and we welcome into studio Kieran O'Donnell, who's going to preview the podcast and also give us some news. How are you getting on?
Good, Greg, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, actually.
The sun is out.
Is it?
Well,
excellent.
it was
it's nice
and
mild,
wasn't it?
though.
Oh, that's good.
Just that extra couple of degrees.
You can notice the wee rise in temperature.
Aye, and a wee rise in the grass.
Hopefully it stays.
It's not
the grass definitely is rising.
Unfortunately,
a lot of growth there this last week or two.
We are going to see a wee bit of rain. But anyway, look, it's early May. Right, let's get into some news and some plans for Creasla there.
Yeah, Donegal County Council, the Creasla Working Group and the Creasla Community Association, supported by IRUP, are launching a public consultation process to prepare a village plan for the Creasla community. So the process to prepare a village plan will outline opportunities for project development, village renewal, regeneration and healing in the aftermath of the tragedy in October of last year. And this has been led up by the Multidisciplinary and International Consultancy Service. So IRUP have been operating in Ireland since 1946 and they're described as a global sustainable development consultancy using imagination, technology and rigour to shape a better world.
And I'm sure they will, and I hope they do, but it's very important that they speak to those most directly affected by that in plotting that way forward.
Yes.
Chambers is hosting an Into the West event. This is Letterkenny Chamber, isn't it?
Letterkenny Chamber. The CoLab in Letterkenny is the venue for the Letterkenny Chamber of Commerce Into the West event, which takes place on Tuesday, May the 16th at 8:30am. The council edit will provide chamber members with an opportunity to meet and talk directly to Donegal County Council's Chief Executive Officer, John McLaughlin, and Director of Services, Planning and Community Development, Liam Ward. John McLaughlin will speak about the plans for growth in Donegal and how it will impact over the next 5 to 20 years, while Liam Ward will discuss matters specific to Letterkenny. And just to note, that event is open to chamber members only, Greg.
All right, I'm sure you can sign up as a chamber member at any stage.
Good opportunity
to attend that, and I think it'd be an interesting conversation actually to hear from the CEO what the plans are for this county, though we know them, but you know what I mean. The Heritage Council has been dishing out some funding.
Yeah, the council has awarded €207,000 in funding for 13 heritage initiatives in Donegal under its Community Heritage Grant Scheme. The aim of this annual grant scheme is to support projects that improve access and inclusion to heritage sites and that apply good heritage practice to the management of places, collections, objects and buildings. Quite a criteria there. So a total of 137 county-wide initiatives will be funded this year, and Donegal secured 13% of that funding for its 13 projects.
All right, okay. If you want to get into the bar trade,
there's
opportunities for you, especially if you like Churchill.
Yeah, the owners of the well-known Callahan's Bar in Churchill are looking to rent out the bar, off-licence shop and living quarters. Callahan's was renovated in 1981 and this was followed by the addition of a purpose-built extension for events. So for more information about what's involved, Greg, email callahansbar@gmail.com.
Would you? If you could?
Exciting, there was a time in the past, yes. Not now, not the way the whole thing's changed.
Yeah,
no.
I don't know.
But anyway, hopefully they'll get somebody out there and they'll
open a bar in southern Portugal or something.
Yeah, if we would warmer.
Karaoke every night and all that crack. All right, food prices coming down slightly. Sorry, let me say, and I've fell into that. Food prices still continue to rise, but they're rising at a lower rate.
Yeah, that was exactly my own thoughts, Greg. The rate of food inflation has dropped slightly for the first time in 2 years, and that is according to the latest figures from consultants Kantar. For the 12-week period to April 16th, the rate of inflation dropped from 16.8% to 16.6%. So even when you're saying 16% in terms of inflation, like that's exactly what you're referring to, you know. The figures also show continued growth in consumers choosing own brand labels, which rose by 15.6% compared to an 8% increase in branded labels.
Like, there's something going on here. Firstly, input costs have come down on an awful lot of stuff. But the high prices are driving people to own brand labels, and those same shops make more profit from the own brand labels.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, I mean, there's something, it's crazy what's going on. And also, too, 2/3 of that 16.8% inflation, it's normally about a third, but currently 2/3 of that inflation is down to profits. Which is, so in other words, there's at least a third in there that's been gouged from us.
Yeah.
And I've, especially when people are so bloody loyal, it really pees me off.
Yeah, I was listening to a discussion at the weekend about the price of milk. Once one of the chains and one of the stores began to drop, everywhere else followed suit. I think it was 5 cents in terms of a litre of milk. I know butter is the latest.
Tesco's dropped its butter.
So, look, there's a seriously long delay.
Who's picking up the bill for that?
Yeah, well, ultimately it's going to be the dairy farmer.
Producer.
If it's going back down the chain.
They're lost leaders.
Yeah,
they're saying we'll drop the price of milk, shaft the farmer, and we'll make the money on other products.
So while good news for the consumer, as you say, bad news for the dairy farmer.
Right, okay. Any insight into that as well, by the way, 08660 25,000. I'll take a quick break, actually, and that'll clear the decks. Come back after this as we'll talk about what's coming up on this week's pod.
Tá Mark uair nua ag gnólachtaí tuairseoireachta le sórmhachas fostóra a Curranúil. Bunithe chormí na bhostaithe hain. Aithníonn an clór na fostóirí sin a chaithn dúchreachta rihan ama le loighreacha ibre níos fear a crothú do gcuid fostaithe. Mealasteach na daoine is fear agus cuine gíd. The Employer Excellence Programme. Tilla Olish ag foltaireland.ie.
Fantastic value at Homeland Letterkenny Garden Centre this Saturday, 6th of May, with our Garden Super Saturday. Summer flowering bulbs and all roses, buy 2 get 1 free. Heavy duty 6-seater picnic bench, only €179. Gas barbecue now only €179. Shop in store at Homeland Letterkenny with expert advice from our experienced team. Offers mentioned available this weekend only.
At ESB Networks, we're connecting Ireland to a clean electric future. And as part of the National Smart Metering Programme, we're now installing smart electricity meters in your area. Your new smart meter will reduce the need for estimated bills, help you to manage your electricity usage more efficiently, and enable you to access smart electricity products and services. We'll contact you before your meter is installed. Find out more at esbnetworks.ie/smartmeter.
If you're 70 or over, or have a weak immune system, it's time for your spring COVID-19 booster vaccine. Your spring booster will top up your immunity against COVID-19 for the months ahead, protecting you from serious illness or needing to go to hospital. You will be invited for another booster in the autumn to top up your protection for the winter months. Spring boosters are available until the end of May, so don't delay. Contact your local participating GP or pharmacy. Call our team in HSC Live on 1800 700 700 or visit hsc.ie to make an appointment at a HSC vaccination centre. From the HSC.
Okay, you're welcome back to the programme. Okay, so the Business Matters podcast is live for you right now on our website, highlandradio.com, or on iTunes and or Spotify. And let's preview it now, because Kieran O'Donnell is still in studio with us. So what can we expect this week?
Yeah, Greg, on this week's show, I will be focusing on the launch of the Inishowen Sustainable Energy Communities Strategic Plan and the Ballyliffin Lodge Hotel. I travelled down to the launch last Thursday night and I spoke to a number of people who are involved in the plan, and that is aimed at creating a decarbonised and more sustainable Inishowen. So these include the joint CEO of Inishowen Development Partnership, Andrew Ward, Claire Irwin of Irwin Consulting, who delivered the keynote address, and IDP team lead and a member of the ISEC committee, Paul McGonigal, who acted as MC for the launch. In this clip, Paul gives an overview of the plan.
Well, I suppose the plan that's launched earlier really is to see how Inishowen as a region can firstly take on the challenges that climate change present, And that's really a broader theme insofar as it's more relative to, you know, the need for it, Kieran, as opposed to the opportunity. But the second factor certainly is the opportunity, and there's going to be significant opportunities in this sector moving forward, and we heard that this evening in Claire Irwin's excellent presentation, even on a local level, what that can mean from the construction sector, from the financial sector, for those secondary industries, secondary economic side of things as well. It's just phenomenal, the potential. So really, overall, what the strategic plan or roadmap does is outline how we are going to place ourselves. We're already very well positioned because of the work that's gone on over the last number of years to avail of those opportunities and to meet those challenges head on. And that's really what the roadmap outlines.
During my conversation with Andrew Ward, Greg, he talked about the importance of the buy-in and support from the communities in Inishowen.
Funny thing tonight, it's over now, maybe 20, 25 minutes, and you can still hear the buzz, people having tea and talking and meeting and making the connections, because it's all about connections. And, you know, in any energy story as well, you know, we have to have support and buy-in from the community. And as I say again, you know, there are two different things here. One is the production of energy and how that can be done and how the community can benefit from it. And the other is the whole retrofitting area, the whole, you know, just transition in relation to moving to a cleaner, greener economy.
And in her keynote address, Claire Irwin spoke of her passion for sustainability. And here
Sustainability and the protection of our environment is something that has always been very close to my heart. About 20 years ago, I studied in the University of Ulster Jordanstown, and a good proportion of the studies was focused around climate change, action and sustainability, and I suppose that's probably where my interest and passion first began. During later years then, I published a thesis on how to sustainably construct wind farms in rural Ireland and published papers. And just as time evolved, being involved in construction projects, my primary focus was always, you know, to try and reduce the impact that the construction has on, you know, the ecological footprint and the emissions of the building that we construct during the whole life cycle of the buildings.
All right, so it was an interesting event by the sounds of it. Did it move you, Kieran?
Yeah, look, it's an area, Greg, that I wouldn't have been overly familiar with, but I did learn a lot. Inishowen are obviously leading the way county-wide and probably in the northwest as well. One line that Paul McGonigal said that struck me, he described it as a big opportunity for Inishowen to change itself economically, culturally and socially. Big emphasis on community, a big emphasis on the importance of buy-in. A couple of statistics that I was taken by as well. Claire Irwin, 61% of the houses in Inishowen were built before 2001. 10% of the houses in Inishowen were built at the earlier part of the last century, and 80% of the current national stock 80% of the national stock that will be in place in 2050 has already been built. Mm-hmm. So, and again,
that's a lot of retrofitting, isn't it?
You know, it's an opportunity for, I suppose, Inishowen. They talked about the white van syndrome, about skilled work people heading up the road to Dublin, coming down every weekend. Getting those people, getting them back, getting them retrained, getting them upskilled, and get them, I suppose, look after Inishowen and take it along with the times. And obviously, in terms of the construction industry, the construction industry is responsible for 37% of the carbon emissions as well in Ireland, which is a big percentage. So very much a learning thing. Collaboration is the key. Obviously, fishing and agriculture are big sectors in Inishowen as well, and they will have to play their part along with everybody.
Yeah, and I get it. And listen, it's good to hear the positives being sold, because that might increase a buy-in. But sometimes you think it's just generally speaking, it's like, you know, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, or 3 steps back. And the perfect example of that is in that the big conversation happening today, you know, obviously electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, plug-in hybrid vehicles, their sales continue to grow. But any carbon reduction is being offset by an increase in sales of SUVs. And they're coming after your SUV now, Kieran.
Yeah. And yours.
So my point is that, you know, even though, what is it, like 28 or something like that percent of new cars are electric or some version of electric, any savings to the environment are being offset by people buying more SUVs, and now they're, as I say, they're coming for them now. Don't you know? That's what's next.
Yeah, I suppose one other thing that Paul McGonigal noted was the pace of transition is fast and getting faster. So, it's a relatively new organisation, but the pace is much faster than I think they anticipated. But they're very much well organised, and in terms of funding availability, they are getting their ducks in a row, and they will be in a position to sort of move with the times and get that financial support when it's needed.
The just in terms of retrofitting, though, the fundamental problem we have is that industry experts believe that the retrofitting is not up to a standard that actually will make any material difference. Okay, so we need to actually be retrofitting houses up to a higher standard. But B, even though this country is incredibly rich, the majority of us aren't rich, and we simply can't afford, most of us can't afford the costs to us to retrofit. Even with the grants and everything, you still have to find, 10, 20 grand, and people simply do not have that money at this time. Yeah, I suppose from the affordability aspect, one would hope that maybe the government will look at that again and make it feasible for people to go the route. That's what it comes down to. They have to, or else. Yeah. But also the standards have to be looked at to ensure that we're retrofitting houses up to a beneficial standard. Okay. A caller says, I was delighted to see the milk went down 6 cents. Good news so far, right? Yeah. I'm not finished the text. When doing my shopping, I then see that the individual scones went up by 6 cents each. It's all swings and roundabouts. So the milk's down and the scones are up. Sounds typical, doesn't it? All right, Kieran, listen, thank you very much indeed. Just remind us now, the full interviews with Paul, Andrew and Claire, they're available right now to download as part of that podcast. A good long chat with Kieran at highlandradio.com. You can listen, stream it online or download it to your device. It's up to you. And it's broadcast on air as well, Kieran, isn't it?
Yes, after the 6 o'clock news on Sunday evening.
And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how did they do so?
Yeah, just drop me an email, please, Greg. businessmatters@highlandradio.com.
That's businessmatters@highlandradio.com. Kieran, as always, thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you when? Next week?
Correct.
Bye.
Business Matters in association with the ATU Donegal Faculty of Business. If you're a senior manager in the private sector looking to reinforce your leadership skills, ATU are offering a Level 9 Executive MBS in Leadership and Innovation. Call 9186206 or email donald.hannigan@atu.ie.
Okay, right. A caller says, if you live in an apartment block and smart meters are being rolled out, what happens if a tenant doesn't want one? What happens there? It depends who owns. Do you own the apartment within the apartment block? I don't know the makeup of that scenario, unfortunately, so I couldn't comment on it. But someone out there is bound to know, and they'll be able to have their say. Terms of reference, this caller believes, are used by the government to avoid talking about elephants in the room. We saw this during the expert panel report into MICA. We also saw narrow terms of reference when the working group tried to work with the government on dealing with the MICA issue. We saw it again when the SCSI set up rates and we were given a narrow reference of 2007 regulations, which did not include foundations. Clearly, this is not a democratic process and is used constantly by government to manipulate the public and the issues. And I get where you're coming from, I really do. A caller says, for God's sake, every turbine in Donegal is on a peat bog. It's ecocide to put industrial wind turbines on peat bogs. Yeah, it's counterproductive, isn't it? A caller says, I've never heard so much nonsense talking all my life. It's like banning the cutting of peat here and then buying it from abroad. Is that in relation to how we deal with our waste? Yeah, indeed. We talk the talk, but when you look at it, it's a very different walk that we're walking. On the smart meters, a caller says you can opt out of having a smart meter installed. Contact your supplier, giving your MPRN number and account number, and tell them you wish to opt out. Those details, the MPNR number and account number, are on your bill, by the way. They're on both your, if you get an emailed bill, they're there, but they'll also be on your physical bill. My partner changed to prepaid power last year. Now ESB is torturing him for a reading to sort the bill out for the ESB. Okay, I would have thought that if you're on prepaid power, there is no readings. Again, I used to have prepaid power and I don't recall ever having to supply readings. I didn't even think the meter was being read, if I'm being completely honest with you. A caller says, I put up a wind turbine. It is obligatory to have a smart meter with half-hourly readings. Automatically, this put us on commercial electricity rates, a farmhouse as well. Power and I bills went crazy, and they just said, no, it's the rules, tough. It cost a fortune, increased from $300 a month to $1,300 a month, followed by last year's increases took us to $2,600. But I've now got a new electricity supplier who sorted it out, and my bills dropped back to original levels, €600 to €700 a month. Smart meters are grand, some suppliers are not. And we're behind the curve here in Ireland, even compared to Britain. And in Britain, you still can't really fully maximise the benefits of smart meters. So at what point might you be able to do so? I don't know. A caller says it's like the Healy Rays said about board pneumonia using wood chips from Brazil to lower Ireland's carbon emissions. We need a global effort. Yeah, indeed. That was crazy seeing the stockpiles. Hi, Greg. As regards to the quiz show you talked of, Claire is too slow in asking questions, not a patch on The Chase or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Both great shows with very good presenters. And in my opinion, Claire won't be any good on The Late Late Show. She should stay with Current Affairs. So that's constructive criticism. It's not having a go at her. This caller just believes that she might be better suited to that formal format. I've kind of gone off The Chase. I used to watch it all the time. Don't watch it anymore. I'm watching reruns of Tipping Point at the moment. Crazy. What drags you in? A caller says, if anyone owes money to revenue, it should be deducted from the rent relief scheme. This money's not Piers Doherty's, and he shouldn't be proposing to flash it around like Lord Bountiful. That's off the back of a story that's running on the news at the moment. A caller says, I'm struggling to get respite. We're trying with referrals and not making much progress. Anyone have any ideas? Now, do you know what you might do? And I know it's your private information. If you call us back and talk to me a little bit off air, obviously, to Niamh or Donna Marie about the type of respite that you're looking for or where you're trying, it might help me to target the question a bit more for people to help. So I think that could be respite in a number of areas. So if you don't mind, and if you're still listening, give us a call back and let us know a little bit more detail. And then I can best hope then that listeners might be able to help. I hope you get sorted. I'd like to think I'm tech savvy and alert with scams, and the dog sharing one fooled me indeed. But because it plays to your heartstrings, you see, it's not a weakness of yours. They know what they're doing. But they only because it was pointed out in the comments, it's important for people to continue to point out the scams. Yes, indeed. But you could be at it all day. Oh my, that girl Megan, she go a long way. Great speaker, sounds like she's a great counsellor. She'd make a great counsellor, or maybe she is a great counsellor. Sorry, and I should have made that clear. I think I did in introducing her. That's what she does. She helps young people to deal with their losses. Okay, that's where we have to leave it on the show today. Thanks to Niamh for working on the programme, and also Donna Marie Doherty, who researched and produced. We're back with you tomorrow morning at 9. John Breslin is next.
Do you know Pneumo? Pneumo is short for pneumococcal